Good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Ford, and we've concluded closed session on April 27th, 2021 at 6:30. I am now 6:40. I am now calling to order this regular meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified School Board. And now for information about interpretation for this meeting.
Thank you, Board President Ford. We will give this interpreting announcement in both English and Spanish. Buenas tardes. Voy a dar este anuncio sobre la interpretación en inglés y en español. In order to provide language access, we will be providing simultaneous bidirectional interpretation in English and Spanish. If you are bilingual, you do not have to click anything. If you are not bilingual in English and Spanish, you will have to select your language in order to hear the interpretation. If you are on a laptop or desktop, at the bottom right of your screen, you will see a globe icon that says Interpretation. Please click on the globe now and select English. If you are using an iPad or a phone, locate the three-dot menu and select Language Interpretation, then select English and click Done. We also have American Sign Language interpretation. If you will be using ASL interpretation, please use the Zoom app on your computer, tablet, or phone to join this meeting. If you join this meeting through your web browser, you may not be able to see the ASL interpreter at all times. Esta reunión contará con interpretación simultánea bidireccional en inglés y en español. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada. Si usted no es bilingüe, tendrá que elegir su idioma para escuchar la interpretación. Si está usando una computadora, verá un icono en la parte inferior de su pantalla a la derecha en forma de globo que dice Interpretación. Haga clic ahí ahora y seleccione Español. Si está usando su iPad o su teléfono, localice el menú de 3 puntos, haga clic en Interpretación de idiomas, elija Español y finalizar. All right, thank you very much. We may now begin.
Thank you. And Superintendent Maldonado, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, please stand up, put your right hand over your heart, face the flag, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, and thank you again to all of us who are joining us on Zoom while we, the board and the cabinet, meet in person for the 5th time. Again, all precautions have been taken, including distancing, cleaning, ventilation, testing, and now vaccinations. We are also live streaming the meeting tonight, and thank you for your understanding as we work hard to make everything happen. I also want to announce that in addition to the regular COVID-19 report, always scheduled for 7 p.m., we are now adding the Summer of Learning item as an item on the agenda for at least the next couple of months, which will be scheduled as close to 8 p.m. as possible. And as a reminder, the board will take a 10-minute break at or around 8:30. So at this time, I'd like to continue by inviting Superintendent Maldonado to continue with your report.
Thank you, Board President Ford. Good afternoon, board members, cabinet, staff, and public joining us today. In today's meeting, we will be covering the most current information about our reopening efforts and our plans for a summer of learning for students and staff. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that we are now well into the midst of our graduation season, including college acceptances, career selections, and perhaps even decisions like joining the military. There are so many students whose perseverance and commitment have allowed them to make it to this pivotal milestone. They've had to navigate challenging pandemic conditions like distance learning, taking on additional responsibilities at home like caring for younger family members, having a job after school to help with family finances, and even being responsible for cooking family meals. All of our students have shown resilience and determination, especially when they had to reach out for help because of mental health issues. I wish I could name all the students and tell you all about their unique journeys, but we would be here for many days. In today's superintendent report and for the next several board meetings, I will be selecting a few students to highlight. In today's meeting, I would like to share a couple of stories of our first generation college students. We are proud of Montserrat Carvajal, a senior at Dos Pueblos High School who was awarded a full 4-year scholarship to Grinnell College in Iowa as a Quest Bridge Program scholarship recipient. She's an outstanding, high-achieving, and very motivated student who's also a member of Dos Pueblos Engineering Academy. Montserrat is grateful for her parents' encouragement and the opportunities provided by the Peak and Avid family that helped open doors to college. She's excited to begin her journey at the university and return to Santa Barbara to mentor students. She's with us here tonight to say a few words. And I'll ask my team to bring her into the room.
Superintendent Maldonado, can we go on to the next student? She was having issues logging in.
Will do. Thank you. Our next student is Arath Gomez, named Westmont University's Young Life Leadership Urban Scholar of 2021 and awarded full tuition plus room and board for 4 years. He will graduate from San Marcos High with a seal of biliteracy and a Peak Scholar. He has been busy as ASB secretary, playing soccer and football, and as Link Crew leader, assisting the freshmen in their transition to high school because he strongly believes in giving back. Arath is beyond excited to attend the next 4 years at Westmont, yet nervous as the first in his family to attend our 4-year university. We are certain you will excel. Arath, are you here with us? Ms. Trujillo, do we have Arath?
Yes, we do. Arath Gomez, can you unmute yourself? He's on the panelist side, but I'm not sure he's not responding.
Okay, we can go to the next one and then you'll advise me, Ms. Trujillo, when we're ready, if we're able to bring these students in.
Yes.
Our next student is Giselle Olea Rayo. She's graduating from Santa Barbara High with many recognitions, including Golden State Seal, Seal of Biliteracy, National Honor Society, California Scholarship Federation, and Community Service Excellence Awards. Her work ethic and educational trajectory is truly admirable. She went from being an English learner at Adelante Charter School to becoming a multilingual student and has successfully completed multiple dual enrollment and advanced placement courses. Giselle will be the first in her family to graduate high school, and her younger sisters look up to her and plan to also be part of the SB Unified Peak family. Her plans are to major in business and someday own her own business, while also considering a degree in education. She's still deciding between UC Riverside, Westmont College, and CSU Channel Islands. Do we have Giselle with us, Ms. Trujillo?
She is with us. One moment.
Thank you so much for this recognition. I really appreciate being recognized, and I just want to thank you all for this opportunity and want to thank my parents that are here with me. And once again, thank you so much.
Congratulations, Giselle. Thank you for being with us and for being such a high achiever. Ms. Trujillo, should we continue?
We have student Arath Gomez. Arath, could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, hello. Sorry, I was having like technical difficulties there.
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that have supported me throughout, even since junior high. I see that Mr. Campos, my junior high counselor, is here as well. And I just wanted to thank everyone for always being there and supporting me through anything that I needed help through. Thank you, guys.
Thank you and congratulations, Arath. And did we get Ms. Montserrat to join us?
We were not able to get Montserrat back.
No worries. Thank you. Next, board members, I wanted to share with you a clip of that we shared through my weekly video to parents that spotlights our student athletes who recently signed their letters of intent to play a sport at the college level, as well as a few other seniors we are spotlighting for their outstanding achievement. Just remember, we'll be doing this on a regular basis, so I will ask Ms. Trujillo to please play the video of these student athletes. Thank you. That was a little taste of the student athletes and the signing that's going on in our schools. I'm so proud of so many of these students and wish them the best as they go on to their future. Next, I'd like to acknowledge the work of our teachers who, despite the many hurdles they have overcome this year, they have remained focused and determined to make sure their students are learning. Similarly to our students, our teachers have navigated their own unique journeys during this pandemic. Some have lost family members, many are caring for aging parents or young children, and teaching while trying to also care for their own children who are learning from home. Our teachers have endured criticism for asking safe working conditions, but yet they show up day to day to teach. I want to recognize one teacher in particular, and again, just like with students, I'd like to be able to recognize each and every single teacher that works at Santa Barbara Unified. Today, I'd like to recognize one in particular whose work to uplift her class and help maintain a positive mindset has garnered her national attention. I'd like to share this clip with you now of Miss Katie Boozer.
Finally tonight here, the teacher, the third graders, and the pep talk, America Strong. In Santa Barbara, California, Miss Katie Boozer's third graders at Franklin Elementary, they're back in class, all wearing masks, all socially distant, and before taking a test just to get used to it all again, a pep talk.
I believe in me. I believe in me. Pencils up. Pencils up.
Miss Boozer says she does it to help build confidence.
I am strong.
I am strong.
I am smart.
I am smart.
I am capable.
I am capable.
And with us tonight,
Hi, David.
that third grade teacher telling us encouraging words do make a difference in this pandemic.
It's really helped teaching during COVID with so much out of our control. And that chant we do, it's great before tests, but it's also great out in the real world as well.
And tonight, that teacher's message to young minds everywhere.
I want all students to know that they are strong, that they are capable, that they are smart, and that they can do hard things. And in fact, they've been doing them all along.
It's true, a pep talk for all the kids and parents out there just trying to get through this school year. I'll see you tomorrow night. Until then, good night.
And I want to welcome Franklin Elementary third grade teacher, Katie Boozer. I've asked her to join us today to share a few words about what keeps her so optimistic and positive, and why is it important for all of us to pass this on to our students. And I have to admit, even myself, sometimes needing to give myself that pep talk. Ms. Boozer, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was totally that anxious kid in school. I was the one who had the chronic stomach aches. I was the one who needed all the pep talks. So when I became a teacher, I knew that that was the avenue I wanted to go. And I've been teaching in Santa Barbara Unified for 10 years, and I've been doing this all along, but it's really morphed this year during COVID, because as you know, we've been teaching on Zoom for the majority of the year, but we still were doing these chants. And then once I got the opportunity to get the kids back in school, it was just a way for me to connect with them on a level in the classroom to encourage them, but also to encourage them outside of the classroom as well. And it's helped me. I mean, every morning we start with our I am statements. We have I am journals. So they write one statement like I am brave or I am strong. And then they do an I am grateful for statement. And it really helps me read the room, but it also really helps me connect with them and see what's going on. And it helps sets our tone for the day. So it's really helped keep me sane during this year. And it's also really helped me form really strong relationships with the kids as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you for representing Santa Barbara Unified and for being such a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us, and especially for working so well with our students. I did ask Ms. Boozer to use that same technique and come up with a way to remind students of their commitment to staying healthy and to follow all of our many COVID safety protocols. So with the help of Ms. Barnwell, she's put together a video that's going to help all of us, and students and all of us, remaining focused on safety awareness.
I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
I believe I can.
I believe I can.
I know I can keep my distance.
I know I can keep my distance.
I know how to wash my hands.
I know how to wash my hands.
I will wear my mask.
I will wear my mask.
Thank you so much. That is all for today's report, board members. I will share more information about our current planning for the 21-22 school year during our action agenda items.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Maldonado. The students and of course, Ms. Boozer are so inspiring. Tonight, board members, with your permission, I'm going to be the first board member to comment about someone else who's inspiring. And that's because there's another doctor in the house. Yes, we are celebrating Superintendent Maldonado tonight, who successfully defended her thesis this month and officially has earned a doctorate of education from Loyola Marymount University. First, let's remember that she did this while working full-time at LAUSD and then here full-time during a pandemic, which routinely required 60+ hours a week here on behalf of district students. What else did it mean for the past 3 years? It meant 6 to 10 hours of classes per week and 15 hours of research and writing every week. It meant no travel, no gym workouts, no cooking at home, no movies, no time to just think and reflect, and no date nights. But it also meant working with amazing mentors and colleagues that developed relationships for life, an important thesis that we should talk more about that addressed transformational leadership, social justice, and critical pedagogy for language acquisition. And it also meant a triumph that addressed her own fear of failure and drew something out of her that helped her learn that she was, after all, a scholar and an academic. No kidding. So I'd love you to accept our congratulations, Dr. Maldonado, and this gift from the board. And another one that you'll receive in a week or so. There's no need to open it right now. I'll just tell you right now, it's a picture frame for your certificate, or maybe a photo of you and your family, or even a photo of you and your husband on a real date night. So please join me, everyone, in recognizing Dr. Hilda Maldonado tonight.
Thank you, President Ford and everyone. And I just want to say that I do dedicate my dissertation to my family, my friends, but mostly to the students like myself, English learners, migrants, refugees, immigrants, and others who struggle in a school system that's not always designed for them. But as you can see from my example, also changes lives for generations to come. So thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Congratulations. So now we'll continue with the rest of the board comments. So to my right, Ms. Munoz.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I would like to, first of all, give express myself to Dr. Maldonado and in sincere appreciation and admiration for you. Your thoughtfulness to share your doctorate degree with our students and families and the greater community will inspire our youth that they can reach, that they have limitless opportunities and that they can reach higher education. Thank you so much. I would also just like to briefly say that, in honor of Earth Day, I made a mask to symbolize the community, that every day is Earth Day and that we can take care of Mother Earth and, take care of it for future generations to come as our all-woman board with Dr. Maldonado at its helm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Swan.
Thank you, President Ford. Good evening, everyone out there in the Zoom land and everyone here in the room. It's always good to be back here, and certainly to extend my congratulations and admiration also to Dr. Hilda Maldonado. I can just call her Dr. H now, so I have to have my own special thing to that, right? So just congratulations and thank you, for your commitment to this district, all the while commitment to yourself and changing your life for others and being an example of that as well. So thank you so much.
Yes, I'll just echo what Katie Boozer, third grade teacher, says. We can do hard things. The fact that you pulled this off in a pandemic and a new job is just incredible. It's mind-boggling to me. So I hope you feel that. Congratulations. Just wanted to acknowledge and thank you. Earth Day this last week Superintendent Maldonado, Dr. Maldonado, and I had the chance to go to Monroe Elementary along with Oscar and Ms. Barnwell, because I was privileged to give the keynote address for Earth Day on the opening day, which the focus, rightly so, was on our youth and youth activism. In my mind, the environmental movement in 2021 is centered by youth and their focus on climate change. I believe our president was elected with a climate mandate, and being with those kindergartners who just, thanks to Ellen Hunter, the kindergarten teacher, and Principal Naughton, and supportive parents, we have a green team in kindergarten, the class of 2034, if I'm doing my math right, who is dedicated to our earth and knows about composting and taught us about how worms work. And it just gave me some inspiration as we continue to move forward on this massive microgrid project. And I had the chance to remind the community that in the works now will transition us to over 90% reliant on renewable energy next year. It's happening at 14 schools, 6 microgrids, and saving the school district $8 million in hard costs and another $6 million. So a lot of good things to focus on, a lot of work we have to make up for, and a lack of leadership that we have to make up for globally. But we're doing it, and we're starting with our young people, and they're at the heart of it, and then the reason why we're marching forward. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations, Dr. Maldonado. Very proud of you. Thank you for your example and your leadership. And thank you to all the secondary teachers, the administrators, the parents, the students. We were so happy to welcome you back, and there's a lot of excitement out there. So thank you and welcome back.
Perfect. And finally, I'll conclude our comments to tell you that I'm also delighted to share and recognize 6 certificated retirements, all longtime dedicated Santa Barbara Unified School employees who are retiring in June. There's Richard Ceriali, a teacher from San Marcos High School with 17+ years of service. There's Blake Garnand, a teacher from Adams Elementary with 23 years plus of service. There's Jana McKee, a teacher from Adams Elementary also with 32 years plus of service, and Kevin McKee, teacher at Dos Pueblos High School with 15 years plus of service. Also, Andrea Wagner is our last teacher. She's at Santa Barbara High School, and she has 30+ years of service to the district. Also retiring is Fred Razzo, who is the assistant principal at Santa Barbara High School, and he retires with 27+ years of service. So on behalf of the board, to all of you, I wish you a well-deserved, restful, healthy, and happy retirement with plenty of sunshine and life's adventures ahead. So with that is 7:05, and I will say that it is now time to move to our COVID-19 report. And I'll turn that to Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just pass it right on to Dr. Wagenek to get us started.
All right, good evening, board. President Ford, board members, Dr. Maldonado, and we are here to give you version 19 of the COVID board report. Again, in terms of our drivers, we had these 5 areas that we needed to make happen before we could open school fully, and those have happened. We have accomplished them, and the drivers that we have been relying on for nearly 1 year now. At this point, I'd like to go ahead, next slide, and ask Susan Klein Rothschild to join us and give us an update on the state of the state and COVID.
Thank you, and I'm happy to join you tonight to reinforce and celebrate that Santa Barbara County is indeed in the orange tier, as is most of the state of California, California is really leading the way in the nation right now in terms of the low rates, case rates for COVID, and we're really excited about that. As of today, the state has identified that our adjusted case rate is 3.6. That's solidly in the orange tier. Our test positivity rate is 1.5%. That's actually in the yellow tier. And our health equity rate is 1.9%, which is also in the yellow tier. So we're really doing well. Again, we need to watch our case rate, but we're headed in the right direction, and it feels very good to be in the positive realm here. Certainly one of the ways we've gotten here is by completing vaccinations, and Santa Barbara County and California in general have done a very good job of getting people vaccinated. It's very exciting to see so many people get vaccinated. And I'll tell you, it is really making a difference. I received reports from schools across Santa Barbara County, about 20 public school districts and about 40 private schools. And the number of COVID cases amongst school staff has drastically decreased. And I attribute that largely to the vaccination rates. Each school is giving us a rate of what the percentage of staff are who are vaccinated, and it's very high. So that's a very good sign for all of us. Vaccinations are working. People are not transmitting COVID in the same way. Good news, adults are not having COVID cases as they had in the past. Our numbers are down. On the other side, I'm concerned that we are having increases in student COVID rates. Not surprising, we have students in school, but it is important to understand what's going on. And I want to share with you, it's not just SB Unified. We are seeing some cases of student COVID cases, mostly in high schools, both in public and in private high schools. And we're trying to understand what's behind this increase. I want to share with you, I don't know for sure. We're looking at the data at this point. It could be a number of factors. One, we've just returned from spring break. That could be part of it. We know that traditionally across the country, more students who participate in athletics and extracurricular activities tend to be more likely to test positive for COVID. So that's another factor. We also know people are getting tired of following the protocols and wanting to loosen. And when we're doing better, it's tempting to want to not follow the protocols, but that's what's been working, and that's why we need to keep it. Those face coverings, the physical distance, the rules, the guidelines that have worked in schools, we want to keep those going. Again, a number of these cases are not necessarily transmitted in school, but when students go to school, they bring the COVID with them. So we're looking at the data, we're trying to understand it better. We're reinforcing with our athletic directors and our staff and extracurricular leaders, help us maintain those protocols. We want students to be healthy. We want the schools to be safe places, and they are. They largely are and continue to be. And the California Department of Public Health is reinforcing the importance of students being in school for their social, emotional, and academic well-being. So we want to keep that to be a safe place. We are recommending that families continue to move towards vaccination. Youth as young as 16 years of age are eligible for vaccinations now. There are lots of openings and lots of opportunities to get vaccinations. There's a website with the public health department that lists all the places. People can go on My Turn and sign up for a place. It's so much easier than it was just a few weeks ago. So please consider getting vaccinated. For our youth who are 16 to 18 years of age, if they get vaccinated now, it will give them great flexibility to participate in athletics, to limiting quarantines, all those things in the future. So we hope that that will happen soon. I also let you know that we anticipate vaccinations will get emergency authorization for students and youth as young as 12 to 15 years of age in the next couple of months. So the more people we have vaccinated, the less likely we have transmission, the more health we have in our communities. And that's the goal we're working towards together. So thank you to everybody who's helping and reinforcing. And I just want to say, I have seen such strong support and commitment by school staff at all levels, in all roles. to keep the environment safe, to keep our students safe, and it's making a difference. So thank you to all the school staff for helping make that happen.
Thank you, Susan, for being with us yet again. So next slide, please. So board, you can see here, we now have had a total of 172 cases. These date back to, or began, we had our first case in late September. And so we keep, are keeping tabs here. 107 staff, we have held steady in the past week or so with staff, as Susan was mentioning. And then students, we have had an increased number of student positive cases, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. And then 10 cases of presumed transmissions on campus. That is an increase of 1. Now, I do want to say that in the past 6 months, families and staff have received notices, sometimes a number of notices regarding these positive cases when they occur. We are very proud of the fact that we have proactively been reporting to our families and to our staff as we are required when there's a positive case. And that can be unsettling for some people. We're aware of that. But we want to assure our families and the community that despite the fact that we have positive cases, our schools remain safe with only 1 known student-to-student transmission since September. No known student-to-staff or staff-to-student transmission. So despite the fact that these notices come out, schools are safe, and it's because of the mitigation efforts that you saw in Katie Boozer's class and that you see with us tonight. And we will continue that. We are not going to let up, despite the fact that the rates in California have decreased. Next slide, please. So in terms of testing, we've tested a total of almost, I would say by the end of this week, it will be well over 9,000 tests will have been given. So far, that has yielded 41 positive tests. That's a positivity rate of 0.47%. And as Susan shared, the county rate, positivity rate, is 1.5%. So we continue to test employees bi-weekly. Employees who are fully vaccinated, 2 weeks beyond full vaccination, are able to opt out, but they may continue to test if they choose to. Student athletes in high risk sports, especially our indoor sports and wrestling, they continue to test within 72 hours of competition. Students or staff who are symptomatic may request a test. Now, the vast majority of these positive student cases in the past 6 weeks have been our student athletes, and that's because of the testing that we're doing. We've had a handful of cases reported amongst non-athletes, K through 12. So we are seeing positive cases amongst younger students as well. But this increase in positive student cases, it coincided with the start of athletic competition and the requirement for testing. And the important thing to point out is that after talking with experts, we believe that the rate of positive tests results among asymptomatic students could be attributed to the fact that some of these students actually had COVID in the past 90 days, but were unaware. Back in August, the CDC updated its isolation guidance based on the latest science about COVID. And that science showed that people can continue to test positive up to 3 months after they have had COVID and they're not infectious to others. So our students and staff are notified that they must not test if they have been COVID positive within the last 90 days. However, if someone was positive, if these students were positive and they didn't know it because they were asymptomatic, then if they're testing now, they would come up as positive. So we feel fairly confident that this is happening with some of our student athletes when we use PCR tests, which are the gold standard tests. Yesterday, our team met with Santa Barbara Public Health Department at Public Health's request to discuss shifting to the antigen, or what most people know of as the rapid testing for our athletes. We are going to move forward with a plan to test our athletes twice a week, those who are in high contact and indoor sports. Students who have a positive antigen or rapid test will then take a PCR test to confirm or negate the antigen result. We believe that this process will eliminate the erroneous positive tests for those students who were asymptomatic positive in the past 90 days. Next slide, please. The little boxes there, but 82% of our employees are now totally or partially vaccinated. Another thing that we are very proud of, and we appreciate that our employees have gone out and taken it so seriously to protect themselves and others against COVID. Next slide, please. So student vaccinations. As Susan Klein Rothschild mentioned, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, all eligible for vaccination now. And we are working hand in hand right now with Cottage Hospital. We just had a meeting today and solidified that our 3 traditional high schools are going to take school buses of students to Goleta Cottage Hospital next Tuesday to get vaccinations. Alternative Ed, Alta Vista and La Cuesta will be going in the coming weeks, and this is just the start of what we believe will be many, many, what I'm calling field trips, vaccination field trips. We're really focusing on our students who have barriers to transportation, barriers to parent ability to accompany them to become vaccinated. So we're looking at the students who most need our support, and parents can give permission for their 16 and 17-year-olds to be vaccinated. They give a third-party permission for that process. So again, Cottage Hospital is such a fantastic partner for us, and this is just one more example of that. And so we are moving forward with that, and I will report more at the next board meeting on how that went. We've also applied to be a mobile vaccination site with Santa Barbara County Public Health. We've asked that we be a mobile vaccination site for 3 traditional high schools, but also Franklin and La Cumbre as community sites, and we're just waiting to hear on that. And then beyond that, we're getting the word out. The high schools are notifying their students of all the opportunities to go and get vaccinated. Upcoming, there are going to be some 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock appointments opened up so that parents and guardians can take their teens to get vaccinated at that time. Next slide, please. I wanted to bring you an update on the enrollment. We have had an overall net decline of 217 students since August of 2020. And you can see the breakdown there. It's interesting to note, I was curious as to what the decline or increase in students was last year. From August 2019 to June 2020, we actually had a decrease of 243 students. We haven't really taken a dive into what that looks like. Could be because COVID hit us in March and people left the area after that. We're just not sure. But this year really is not an anomaly as compared to last year. Want to let you know the groups who have disenrolled from the district. 109 of those 217 students were high school completers. So they finished high school early. They're early graduates. That's something to celebrate. Another 26% moved to another public school in California. 19% moved to a California private school, and 21% moved outside of California to another state or another country. And then attendance. Next slide, please. We have had a 97% attendance rate. Our goal, we are usually, as a district, somewhere around 94 to 95% attendance rate. So this is a good number, but we also know that, and it's actually not showing up on the slide there because of the Zoom, but the way that, a reminder, the way that attendance is taken this year is if a student's present, okay, seat time, what we call seat time, you're in your seat, be it on Zoom or in person, or you turn in your work, your asynchronous work. So if you're not physically in class or on Zoom, but you complete the work for the day, we are able to count that as being in attendance. I think that's really part of what this is. But I mean, even beyond that, the junior highs and the high schools being up around 98, 99%, there's something there, but we need to dive more into it. But I would like to think that part of this is also because of the commitment that we made in our learning plan at the beginning of the year to really engage with families and go further than we ever have before, and to make commitments to reach out and make phone calls and contact students and families through NEO and send emails. And we asked our teachers to do that, and I have to believe, based on these numbers, that that's what's happening. We've done more home visits this year probably than we've done in the last 5 years combined. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our principals, our teachers, our counselors, our deans, our assistant principals, our school psychs, every single, and the people I haven't named, for the work that they've done to try to engage with our students and their families. And with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague. Great. Okay, Ms. Klein-Rothschild, would you like to comment on the PCR testing?
Thank you. I just wanted to note that sometimes that gold standard PCR testing picks up a small amount of the virus that someone may have had from before, past their infectious period. So it may say positive, but they're no longer infectious. There's no longer a risk of transmission to others. That's why that rapid testing is a good way to go initially, and then we confirm it with that gold standard PCR test. But if we pick up positives when someone's not infectious, it might redirect us in the wrong direction. So thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
And I appreciate that. And that actually, yes, we've learned that PCR is super sensitive to the virus, and that's part of what's been going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agnick, and good evening, board and Santa Barbara and Dr. Maldonado. It has now been, unbelievably, 12 days since our Group A and B elementary students have returned to school for all 5 days as a result of the new 3 feet distance guidelines. This has allowed us to have our in-person Group A and B students for the entire week. It has also, since April 12th, resulted in having 149 of our students switch from distance learning to in-person based on availability and capacity, of course. We have also been able to resume to our pre-COVID daily schedules, making everything feel, and I quote a 6th grader, almost normal except for the masks. And we continue to have all of our students and staff complete their IPASS daily, keep socially distanced, wear masks, and of course, hand washing often. The update for our Group C students is that, as you know, they are continuing their learning virtually. We have actually also had a switch of 68 students who switched from in-person to distance learning. And our Group C students, I'm very excited about this report. They have been able to resume their learning with our specialist teachers, something that we had not been able to do because of the different schedulings, but they are now enjoying their learning in the areas of art, music, physical education, and STEAM, again, as they were pre-COVID. So we are very excited about that. Our principals and teachers report, and we have been able to observe with our own eyes, students being so excited to be back, as well as staff and administrators to have all their students back, or almost all their students. And they are doing a great job with the new rules and safety procedures, monitoring each other. And as Ms. Boozer reminded us all our students are strong, capable, smart, and they can and have been doing all of these hard things. So now, to give you an update for secondary, I will hand it off to Ms. Sean Carey.
Thank you, Ms. Escobedo. I love this photo, if you can see it. This is a classroom at La Colina, back in person, with models of COVID molecules in the foreground there. So not to miss the teachable moment. And as board member Alvarez signaled earlier, it was indeed a big week for our secondary schools. It was just last week, but we returned to campus 4 days a week, and that doubled our in-person instructional time. Maybe even more importantly, by all accounts, it felt like the dramatic and positive leap forward we've been yearning for. And it certainly was something that people commented on all throughout the week. So I want to really appreciate the teamwork on the part of staff, students, and families that allowed us to have such a successful transition to full in-person learning for secondary. It was successful in that it was safe and it was swift, because we had just initiated the hybrid model of in-person learning 2 days before spring break. So everyone was very adaptable and cooperative. We are preserving Wednesdays as 100% distance learning days, and that helps us ensure that we can best support students and teachers, given that the secondary model of in-person learning involves teachers serving in-person students and remote-only or Group C students concurrently. So serving both those groups at the same time. I want to thank our enthusiastic teachers who have been overheard saying, "Zoomers, are you ready?" from their in-person classrooms. Our teachers' proficient use of technology in combination with the impressive digital literacy that our students have developed and are displaying ubiquitously has yielded a virtually seamless experience of class participation for our Group C students, and the pun is intended. Teachers, though, for Group C students are also making sure to differentiate their communication, their instruction, and their support, including the very common practice of dedicating office hours for Group C students so they have that access to their teachers that is just for them on Wednesdays. Other supports for Group C students include having hybrid club meetings on days that school is in session in person, but also some expressions of club meetings that are in person on Wednesdays. There are participation opportunities for all students, groups A, B, and C on Wednesday afternoons, so experiences for elective programs or performing arts, band, choir. And then also beyond co-curriculars, just school activities. Those kinds of experiences can be happening on Wednesdays, things like senior activities or taking photos for yearbook, all with safety in mind and IPASS in play even for the Group C students. So those are some of the things that are being experienced as we are in full in-person learning in secondary, and especially for what that looks like for Group C. At this point, I will turn it back to Dr. Wagener.
All right, and finally, let's talk about next year in COVID. No, we don't. We do not have a crystal ball. People ask me that often. I don't. But what we do know is that our understanding of COVID now, as compared to a year ago, has greatly increased. Thanks to both our own experience and the research. And we also know from experience that in August, we will know more about COVID than we do today, and how to continue to ensure that that there's safety for our students and our employees. And hopefully at that time, the virus continues to fade into the background over time. But we wanted to take a look at some of the key factors that we need to consider heading into next year. First is that research and understanding. That's a key factor. Knowing what we know now and staying on top of things. Next is oversight and support. And we are certain that the state of California and our local public health department will continue to provide us with oversight and support of our safety efforts. Now, comprehensive testing program. It's a very real possibility that we will move to a comprehensive use of antigen testing for students as a way of identifying the presence of the virus on our campuses. This, of course, includes continued surveillance testing of our employees. What it will look like, we do not know, and we're not, 100% certain that it will, but we will keep you posted. As I shared earlier, our district is fully committed to assisting our students ages 16 to 18 with their vaccination appointments. Word is, and Susan Klein Rothschild mentioned this just a few minutes ago, that vaccination of those ages 12 to 15 is on the horizon and is going to be approved in the next few months. That will open up an opportunity for vaccination of up to 75% of our students. And finally, we know that as adults and adolescents continue to be vaccinated, our community transmission rates will continue to drop as we get closer to herd immunity. So just as school looked very different last April than it looks today, next August is going to look much different than it did 8 months ago, and that's a good thing. So at this point, we've concluded this report, and are we taking public comment or going to questions?
Public comment, although I do believe, Ms. Trujillo, that we do not have any public comment on the report tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct, President Ford.
Okay, then we'll go straight to board members with questions or comments. Are there any? Please, Ms. Capps.
Thank you. I would just like to focus on vaccines yet again, but I'm really encouraged by what we're seeing and thrilled that there's buses. As you mentioned, is it Tuesday that that's happening?
May 4th.
That's fantastic. So do we have a sense of numbers of scope at this stage?
The buses, what we worked out with Cottage is the buses will transport 20 students at a time. And so on Tuesday, we will have 60 students vaccinated in that first round. And then we'll go from there and hopefully have blocks every week. That's what we're shooting for.
Again, that's great. And I appreciate the district for sending out, I've received that, sending out notifications and encouraging vaccination. Obviously, that's not something we can require, but I just am applauding as forward thinking we can be. I want to just take note of what the University of California system and the Cal State system did this week, or I believe it was this end of last week, by signaling that once the FDA gives final approval for these vaccines, that they will be requiring it in the fall. I know that's a tricky proposition with kids and with our staff, but I just would urge our district to be on the forefront of that discussion rather than waiting to sort of see what happens with the state and what happens on different levels and all of the ways in which delay can happen in a multi-layered government. I would love for us to be as forward thinking about requiring vaccines, because we know that that's the eventuality, or I believe it should be, and I think it will be in this community. And so again, just forward thinking as much as possible. Back on the question of students, thanks for diving into the uptick in, now that we're back nearly full-time for elementary and 4 days a week for secondary. I got a question from one parent of a Santa Barbara Junior High student saying, is there an outbreak at Santa Barbara Unified? So if we could just speak to it in the, like thinking with your parent cap on, and you might read a headline about that increase. And Susan Klein Rothschild is welcome to answer this if she'd prefer, and do a little comparison of context, because I think context is extremely important. The fact that we have 12,400 students, the fact that we have a few thousand staff. So an increase of 6 student cases, what does that mean? What does that signal to a parent, especially this week when a survey went out asking families to make decisions about, or start thinking about, whether or not distance learning is your option. So I think it's really important to give context to and potentially explain any alarm.
Thank you for that question. I appreciate it, especially on the part of from a parent perspective, and why that would be such a huge concern. I will ask Susan Klein Rothschild to answer that question. She has a better view of contextually what it means for our county. Susan, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, and I'm happy to respond to that. The county is very sensitive to looking at the potential for transmission to grow quickly. Thus, there is a guideline within the county that any facility that has 3 positive COVID cases, it's immediately reported to the public health department. And an investigator is assigned to go look at those cases. Were those cases transmitted within school? Is there a potential that they're related? They talk about an epidemiological epi-link. Are those cases from one person that's spreading? We want to know that as quickly as possible so we stop spreading events. And an outbreak is when there are 3 or more cases that are linked together, that they've had close contact, that they've transmitted together. In our situations we've seen here, and particularly with SB Unified, we've seen some cases, but they've not been 3 or more cases where they've been linked together. It appears that they've been acquired. The virus has been acquired through multiple means, mostly not at school. And that's mostly what we've seen historically. But there's a system set up with the county. So anytime there's a school or facility with 3 cases, we get an investigator involved. We consult with the health officer to get a good look at that. So I would say to you at this point in time, I know of no, quote, outbreaks where those cases are linked and transmitted in school, 3 or more transmitted together, but we have a system to monitor that closely and to look at that. And what we're seeing with the increased number in SB Unified is not different than what we're seeing in some of the other high schools. Again, the increased testing of athletes and knowing that some of those tests pick up the virus after it's done with the infectious period. We know that people are acquiring the virus outside of school. So we're trying to look at that very closely and look at the data about that. At this point in time, there is no urgency or concern looking at the numbers, looking at how the cases are linked. I want you to be assured that the Public Health Department is monitoring this closely. We all want to prevent any kind of large spread and transmission of COVID.
Thank you for answering that. And just to be clear, you answered that wonderfully. So this isn't, I'm not looking at all to, if the numbers are alarming, I want you to ring the alarm bells. So I'm not looking to sort of say, oh, we're doing such a great job. The numbers are low, the numbers are low. I want, especially as a parent, to make sure everybody is as informed as possible if there are signals of concern. But when I looked at the numbers, I did not get that concern. I got reassurance given the fact that it's been several weeks now since we've been back in hybrid, and the uptick has been nominal, really, especially with athletics back in full swing. So, but again, just to convey, ring the alarm bells if that changes, and we'll make decisions accordingly. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capps, for those comments. I was right on that same line. But I also think, we should treat Vaccination Day, particularly with our 68, as signing day like college. It needs to be that, bringing up that level of enthusiasm with regards to that. And also, never underestimate that little small patch they put, I got vaccinated today, as opposed to I voted today. So even just those small things, if people want to go around, if you got one, I want one too, right? So whatever we need to do, whatever means necessary to address all the things that Ms. Capps just said, so that particularly the 16 and 18, they're just, they're 16 and 18, just to that point, right? Let's just acknowledge that. But I think also we talk about civic duty when they're 16, 17 years. This is no less than their civic duty, this. So, applying it to what they're already doing, applying it that we're already starting to look at, we're asking them to do and to be responsible. And reminding them, I was just writing a quote down from Margaret Mead that said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we have to just let them know how critical they are in terms of, changing this world and making it safe for them to go out and do things that they really, really want to do again, but they need to do it safely in a different way. So thank you.
Just a big thank you for all the work and all the thoroughness of the reports that we are getting. And a quick question in regards to the third-party permission. Are this also available in Spanish for parents to understand what they're signing?
Absolutely. It's available in English and Spanish, and we wouldn't be sending it out if it wasn't in Spanish. So it is.
Perfect.
And we know that hopefully a large number of the students will be from Spanish-speaking families. So we're actually going to our AVID and PEAK classes first to have them be the first to go.
Great, thank you. I have no other questions.
And how about Ms. Munoz?
Yes, no, just very briefly, I agree with my fellow sister board members with the importance of vaccination and doing everything we can so that happens and that our community does well and our students are able to continue learning safely and our teachers and staff are kept safe. And I certainly agree with Ms. Sims-Moten about it being a civic duty and how we are doing this as a community. We're really, doing very well. And I'm excited and thankful to our assistant superintendents and everyone in terms of the learning that our students are able to gain right now. I'm hearing a lot of good things. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree. Thank you so much for a really great report. And I really also want to call out that it's a responsive report because you know what people are thinking about. You've been staying in touch with what people are worried about. And it really means a lot to me. And I'm sure to the rest of the board that that when you know what's on people's minds, that you're really responsive. I totally appreciated the information about Group C for sure. That's so helpful to know the great things that are going on there. And also I appreciate the enrollment data, Dr. Wagenet, because I think it totally just for perspective, it reflects everything that's going on in the country and everything that's going on in this state. And you probably heard today on the news that California, for the first time since it became a state, has lost a seat in the House because of the decline in enrollment, as evidenced by the census. So our state is losing people, our town is losing people. It's a very hard state to stay in these days. And so I appreciate knowing that and giving perspective to our public and also to us as the board. And I also wanted to let the board know that since, I've been volunteering out at Cottage, that it's a really safe situation that happens with the students. The bus drives up and the doctor and the nurses, they board the bus and they give the vaccination on the bus. So kids don't have any opportunity to get out, wander around, or do anything like that. So it's a perfectly safe and a really great way to get our kids vaccinated. So with that, thank you so much. And we can go on to the next agenda item, which goes back to number 8, which is any public comments on non-agenda matters. And so, Ms. Trujillo, do we have any of those today?
President Ford, we do have one public comment on this item, and it's Ms. Moni Duet.
Thank you.
Ms. Duet?
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Thank you, board. Oh, and congratulations, Dr. Maldonado. Anyway, I just want to thank you for, I went to the Meta Program Open House at McKinley, beautiful campus, and it was very interesting. But I do want to say I have some concern that students in the program are not being exposed to English and won't be as much English to get them to know how to read by the end of 3rd grade. And, I love the concept of bilingual education. I myself am bilingual or was raised learning Dutch. But anyway, what I would like to see is more support for English. Perhaps we could also give these students opportunities during the summer for intensive evidence-based English language programs like the Science of Reading, and that if we boost up our English, then the dual language immersion can meet the deadline or the milestone of having students at grade level by end of 3rd grade, which is really important. And it is something that the state of California is supposed to ensure that students receive evidence-based literacy instruction, both at elementary and secondary levels. And when I did ask Superintendent Dr. Maldonado about the evidence for, not presenting them with more English exposure, she said it worked in Chula Vista, but didn't have any other data. And, maybe somebody out there could send me some, because I'm really interested to see if, in fact, but everything I've been hearing is that, no, they're not going to make English until maybe 6th or 7th grade. And to me, that is a concern. And I think we need to do better and offer them something in the summer. So I really would like some feedback on this. And also, the Meta program is using LCAP money district-wide, and that's a concern. So I think we need to look at that as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, President Ford. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you so much. Now we'll move on to the acceptance of donations. And of course, the board members and I are so grateful for the donations that we are approving tonight, April 27th, 2021. So board members may have a motion to happily accept the donations tonight. Ms.
So
Camps?
moved.
Thank you. And a second. Ms. Munoz, thank you. So all in favor, board members, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. This motion passes unanimously. That takes us on to the consent agenda. And remember that this is the list of items that are routine, not likely to require any additional discussion. They have been recommended for approval by the superintendent and staff, and board members have had an opportunity to consider and ask questions about these items before tonight. So Ms. Trujillo, are there any public comments on the consent agenda items?
No public comment.
Great. And so I'll move on now to board members. Board members, before I call for a motion, are there any items on the consent agenda that require more information, more comments, or discussion? Ms. Sims Moten.
Yes, on item E4, I'd like to abstain from that. I was not present at those meetings.
Any other questions about the consent agenda? So with that in mind, I wonder if I may have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus E4 so that, let's see, how would I like to say this? Approve the consent agenda with Ms. Sims Moten not being able to vote on E4. So that's the only amendment. And is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sims Moten. And a
Second.
second. Ms. Capps, great. So all in favor of approving the consent agenda tonight, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving on. We're on to the the action agenda tonight. And as you know, if you've had a chance to look at it, members of the community and staff, we have 16 items for our approval tonight. The first 7 were discussed in closed session. And so I'd like to go through them one by one, asking for the motions. Number 1, may I ask for a motion for approval of interdistrict transfer appeal for 2021-22 for case 2122-T1?
So moved.
Thank you. Is
Second.
there a second? Thank you, Ms. Sims Moten. All in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Number 2, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 21-22 school year for case 2122-T2?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And a second?
Second.
Ms. Alvarez. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Was there a 5 ayes?
No, I was just late. Sorry.
Chop, chop. The motion passes unanimously. Number 3, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 21-22 school year for case 2122-T3?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And a second?
Second.
Ms. Ms. Sims Moten, thank you. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good job, Ms. Capps. The motion passes unanimously. Number 4, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 21-22 school year for case 2021-22-T4?
So moved.
Everyone?
Second.
Ms. Munoz. And a second, Ms. Sims Moten. All in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 21-22 school year for case 21-22-T5?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. And a second?
Second.
Beautiful, Sims Moten. All in favor, please second. Sounded like you were gambling there. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Number 6, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 21-22 school year for case 2021-22-T6?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And a second?
Second.
Ms. Capps, great. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. And finally, may I ask for a motion for approval of the interdistrict transfer appeal for 2021-2022 school year for case 2021-22-T7?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And a second?
Second.
Ms. Capps. Thank you. And all in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. This motion passes unanimously. And now on to the other 9 items for tonight. Let's try to move on to number 8. That's the purchase of EduClimber data analysis and visualization platform, and I will turn it over to Mr. Rouse for comments and review.
Good evening, President Ford, members of the board. We're here to talk about the request of approval for the purchase of the EduClimber data analysis and visualization platform. So we had identified a need for a platform to help provide some self-service data visualization and analysis tools for our leaders, to reinforce a culture of data-driven decision-making to improve student outcomes, and to help build the capacity among school and department staff to perform their own data analysis. We had purchased a platform called Videri in an attempt to meet these goals, and we worked hard to try and implement that platform this year, but it became clear that the vendor was not going to meet our needs. The vendor we requested, and the vendor agreed to provide us with a full refund for our purchase, and we have now sought and identified an alternative platform to meet those same needs, and that is EduClimber. We're requesting the board's approval to move forward with the purchase of EduClimber, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Board members, are there any questions? Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you, Brian, for pursuing that reimbursement. It makes me feel good that we're getting all that money back, so thank you.
Of course.
No questions.
Any others? Then, Mr. Hio, I don't see any public comments on this item. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Then I would like to ask for a motion to approve the purchase of EduClimber data analysis and visualization platform.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. And a second, please.
Second.
Second, Ms. Sims-Moten. Thank you. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. On to number 9. For action item number 9, I turn this over to Dr. Becchio for comments and review.
Check. Okay. Thank you very much, and good evening, Board President Ford, board members, and Dr. Maldonado. Bringing you this item tonight, I'm very excited about it. It's something that I have been thinking about for 3 years. It is the digitization, if you will, of our personnel files, and possibly leading into the movement towards digitizing other files in our district that are currently paper files. This idea really has taken a kind of a front seat, if you will, because as you know, in the pandemic, we've been engaged in a lot of remote work, and that remote work has actually been very successful in places where we have access to information electronically. And so this project, actually what we noticed is the personnel files, we have about 3,000 of them in our office, and they are only accessed in person. And also the filing and accessing of information within those files is pretty tedious and time consuming. And so this project is it's being proposed as part of the ESSER funds. And the reason for that is that the funds are specifically for preparing ourselves for continuing in this pandemic or any future pandemics that we may be confronted with. And so what I'm proposing is that we begin that project of digitizing our personnel files. I have received references from 2 different school districts. One is currently here in our area that currently used URM technologies for their personnel files. That's Goleta Union. And then I contacted Hart School District, who actually uses them for their student files. And they continue to use them year after year. They're very satisfied with their service to digitize their student files every year. I do have URM technologies. I think their personnel are on the line if you do have questions after this. But the one last thing that I will say is that I do plan on visiting their plant in Valencia on Thursday morning. This is something that I do want to go there and see their process and see where our files are going. And so I'll do that Thursday before, if you approve this item tonight, before any contract sign, I'll go visit their plant in Valencia on Thursday morning. So with that, I want to turn it over to you for any questions you might have. And again, Ever and I think Carlos Avila and their CEO is on Zoom with us tonight if we have questions from them.
Thank you so much. As far as I can tell, we do not have any public comment on this item. Is that correct, Ms. Trujillo? Ms. Trujillo, do we have any public comments on this item?
No public comment on this item.
Thank you so much. Then board members, any questions or concerns? I guess I would say just for myself, here, about time. I'm so happy that your dream is coming true because it'll be great. It'll be great for the district. Any other comments? Yes, Ms.
I have
Alvarez.
one quick question, and thank you, Dr. Becchio, for answering all of my questions before the meeting. Would you please elaborate a little bit more on the securities in place of URM technologies? These personnel files have a lot of sensitive information, social security numbers, and all information pertinent to employees. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about their security measures in place.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted URM to be with us tonight, because I asked those very same questions. That was my main interest, and that's my interest in actually going there on Thursday. But their answers to that were very satisfying to me, so I hope that we can maybe bring Ever on or one of his other colleagues to speak to your question around security. Sandra, are we able to do that?
Yes, they're both online.
Okay, great. Hi, Ever. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Ever, were you able to hear the question from board member?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was, Doctor. Good question. So in terms of security, we currently, prior to hiring our employees, we run a background check, state and national, Social Security, full name. Once that background check comes back clean, then we bring him on board. Prior to bringing him on board, we have them also sign a confidentiality agreement so that what they see and touch in our facility stays within our facility. Within our facility, we also have security restrictive access in and out of the facility, including myself. Right now is 8 p.m. I only have access to the facility between working hours, 7:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. We keep track of who comes in and out of the facility. We also have camera surveillance inside our production area where all scanning is done. We do not allow cell phones within our scanning operations due to the fact that we not only scan records like the ones that we hopefully get to bring on board from the Santa Barbara School District, but we also scan for federal credit unions, bank institutions that have Social Security, credit card numbers, so on and so forth. So for that reason, we do not allow any cell phones within our production unit. And all our USB thumb drives within the PCs in our scanning area are not accessible. People have no access to those records electronically. So you cannot bring a USB drive, plug it in, and try to leave with that information. It's not gonna work. Any other questions? So hopefully that answers them.
That answers my question. Thank you. And then I have a question for Dr. Becchio. In the proposal, it says that the district has the option to decide later if you want the file shredded or returned to the district. So would you just shoot us an email later and tell us what you decide on that?
I could tell you right now, we are not going to have those shredded, and we are going to have them returned to our facility here.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Board members, any other concerns, questions, or comments? If not, then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and URM Technologies.
I move that we approve the agreement with URM Technologies as stated in the board agenda.
Thank you. And a second, Ms. Capps?
Second.
Great. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And now, as it is 8:05, we will now go to our newly regularly scheduled Summer of Learning report. And for that, I will turn it over to Sloffridge and
Dr. Andy Roundy Harder.
She's not there yet, but yes, and Dr. Ann Roundy Harder.
Good evening, President Ford, esteemed board members,
Superintendent Dr. Maldonado, Cabinet and Community. I'm excited to be here with you to bring Summer of Learning, Soul, report number 5 to you today. If we could have the next slide, please. So you've seen this graphic. This is the graphic that is really a lens for us to view our work. This comes out of the deep thinking that has come from Superintendent Maldonado and Cabinet regarding what we want in our summer school program, what we want in summer learning. And as you can see, the themes are all about equity and inclusive teaching and learning, which we are going to be delivering in a very robust summer school that on the next slide, you will see an overview about. So if I could have the next slide. So the Summer of Learning is a very ambitious and exciting opportunity for us. This particular slide shows you the different ways that we are approaching the Summer of Learning. So for example, there's going to be opportunities for in-time research-based intervention and academic support, along with social emotional learning and enrichment opportunities, as well as much needed course recovery. We are pleased to have our special ed students, especially our moderate severe students, have the opportunity to participate in extended school year, known as ESY. And that is part of their IEP process. And so those students will get the additional supports that they need during that time. Additionally, we are going to offer a newcomer academy, and these are for students that meet the federal requirement of being classified a newcomer, so being in the country for less than 3 years. And we will focus on elementary at McKinley and San Marcos High School for our secondary newcomer groups. And then in August, we're going to bridge the students that are being promoted from one grade level to the next onto their new campuses. So for example, pre-K and TK will have a bridge program to welcome them as kindergartners. 6th graders will have a bridge program to welcome them as 7th graders, and 8th graders will be welcome on their prospective high schools for a bridge activities. All of these learning activities have been designed to be hands-on, engaging. There are field trips, there's job opportunities for high school students, and a lot of incentives, especially with the STEM and project-based learning design of the curriculum, and our amazing community partners. Recently, we met with over 35 community partners, and many of them submitted proposals that we are currently vetting to see who can partner with us in this summer of learning. So more information in the previous board or another board report coming. Next slide. So this is all about elementary. As you can see by the border, we have 6 locations for elementary school, and all of their logos are proudly shown along the side. You will notice that the green block of Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 12:30 is focused on content. Now, these are students that have been invited to participate, and will be having the in-time research-based intervention that they need, a strong focus on language development, of course, math is critical, and a STEAM focus embedded throughout. You'll notice that not only are we offering this academic opportunity for students with credentialed teachers and the amazing stipends that you previously have approved, but we are also ensuring that the students and family have support beyond 12:30 throughout the day with our classified staff. And we are very lucky to have people like Calm partnering with us for the social emotional lessons, and other people that have submitted those proposals, more to come on that, to ensure that we have enrichment opportunities in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday, and all day on Friday. So this is a snapshot of what a potential week in elementary would look like at the 6 host sites that you see along the border. And with that, I'm very excited to turn it over to Dr. Ann Roundy Harder, who's going to tell you what it looks like for the other grade levels.
Well, good evening, President Ford, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Maldonado, of whom we're so very, very proud. We really heard the board and our community comments that we wanted summer school to be a fun learning experience, similar to summer camp when possible. And so the junior high school program has been designed specifically with the idea that we're going to be warm, invitational, fun, and hands-on while still focused on academics. So you see there the mascots of each of our 4 junior high schools as our border. And each of the schools is planning to offer a summer learning recovery experience as well as a summer bridge program. As Sierra noted, summer bridge programs are designed specifically to be welcoming experiences to help students build community, work on their social emotional skills, get to know some new friends, get comfortable being on the school campus. And so that is designed for the incoming students from 6th to 7th graders in particular. Our summer learning recovery is focused on math skills, ELA and literacy skills, AVID, which includes study and mindset kinds of skills, perseverance skills, organizational skills, and so on. And then we really, for this age, it's so crucial to focus on social emotional learning and the needs of our students, many of whom have felt so isolated this year. So we're really paying attention to that through hands-on, engaging and enriching activities, including with our community partners. So as Sierra noted, we're in the process of vetting some really wonderful opportunities for our students, including field trips and other activities. There's a whole range of experiences, including some outdoor experiences that could be quite exciting for our students. But we also want to remember the college and career readiness focus. And so the whole idea is to blend the academics with the other, what we might call softer skills of community building and enrichment with electives. So these are a little bit shorter, designed to be very developmentally appropriate and, as I said, invitational. And I would just point out that by contrast, in the last few years, we've offered summer bridge programs only of a couple of weeks. So we're really more than doubling the junior high experience here. I know one of the questions that we might get is, well, why isn't it 6 weeks? Well, there's nothing magic about 6 weeks. That model comes from our original way of doing high school credit recovery that we're still carrying forward, but that was based on seat time to meet the number of hours for credit recovery. However, with OdysseyWare and self-paced, we know that some students may take all 6 weeks and some may in fact finish a little bit early. But for junior high, we think it's really important to have a blend of learning time, fun time, and then just some free time where they're not having to think about school. They can just be adolescents learning about themselves. Next slide, please. So for high school, it is a little bit different. So for high schools, we do need to focus in on the academics while not forgetting the social emotional connections and supports that students need. So in high school, there are 2 primary ways that students earn credits: through in-person on-campus courses, which are designed by the teachers, remembering that this year, in order to build connectivity, we are offering smaller class sizes of approximately 12 to 15 students. And we are also exploring additional tutoring options with some of our community partners to bring down the class sizes even smaller in terms of adult to student ratio. So there are teacher-created lessons, and then we also use a program called OdysseyWare that we've had for the last several years, and we make sure that our teachers are trained in OdysseyWare, and that's a bit more self-paced, but it is standards aligned. We do offer a whole range of courses for credit recovery, and this is really based on the student needs. So what we do is we look at the data for our students who have a D or an F in courses that they need to qualify them for A to G eligibility. So this helps guide our invitations to which students we should prioritize first for our summer school learning experience. And we also use the data to identify those students who might benefit most from a bridge program, students who maybe were struggling a little bit in the online environment or over this last year, who need that extra boost to feel really warmly welcomed onto the campus. So we offer a whole range, including the traditional core classes that we might think of with English and math, science and social studies, but we also offer PE and we offer health. world languages. And then we have other electives such as art, theater, AVID, ethnic and social justice studies, and even woodshop. And these, because all of these courses are crucial for a student to become college and career ready. Next slide, please. In particular, as Sierra noted earlier, we do have the extended school year program for our students who qualify for this program. Typically, it's our students in the Mod Severe Special Education program. So this is a 4-week program that is offered every day for 4 hours a day, including all grade levels. And I want to thank my partner, Director John Shetler, who oversees this program and shared the information with us. The extended school year is a program that we offer each summer to those students who are eligible. The primary purpose of the extended school year is to address regression that may happen over long breaks from school that some students experience to a greater degree than their non-disabled peers. So in addition to specialized instruction, the students will receive support from specialists, including speech therapists and occupational therapists, and it will be based on their individual needs per their IEP. So we're offering both in-person and remote options to families for this program. And Director John Shetler will be available at the end of this presentation if you have more specific questions about that program. Next slide, please. We're also very excited to debut a new program this year, and that is our Summer of Learning Newcomer Academies. So Sierra mentioned that we have a Newcomer Academy at McKinley Elementary School. We're looking to support 64 newcomer students in grades 3 through 6. So that will be several classrooms based on the enrollment, and we'll focus on language literacy and numeracy skills in English and in Spanish. Summer School for Newcomer Students is being coordinated by my colleague, Executive Director Maria Larios Horton, for both elementary and secondary students. And just to remind us, newcomer students are those students who have been in US schools for less than 3 years. The students will be taught by bilingual teachers, and as I mentioned, they'll focus on language and literacy development, with secondary also incorporating the credit recovery into their programs. And as you can see on this slide, we are looking to support 105 secondary newcomers, about 35 at the junior high and 70 at the high school. And that will be a blended model at San Marcos High School. So we'll have a few more classrooms if all of our students participate, which we certainly hope they will. So we'll do some targeted and specific outreach to our families for this program. Next slide, please. And lastly, I'm really excited to share that although we have had some concerns about the staffing for the summer experience this year and acknowledgement that it's been a really challenging year for a lot of our staff, probably all of us at some point, we have had a bumper crop of applicants for summer school. So this is just great. What it means is that we will have some choices and make the very best placements that we can in terms of a best match for our students. So as of Friday, and I know more are coming in because the deadline is at the end of this week, but as of last Friday, we already had 181 teachers total who had applied for the program. And as I said, more are coming in each day. So that's absolutely wonderful. And that includes both general education and special education teachers. We also had a classified application process, and we've had quite a few people respond to that as well. So when we're thinking, if we have this bumper crop of staff and we need to somehow whittle down and make the best choice, you might say, well, how do we make those choices? Well, we actually have an administrative regulation 4144 that helps guide us around summer school in terms of the decision making. And so some of the factors that are in our AR that we will look at include prioritizing our current employees who have been on the job 1 year or more. And you say, well, isn't that everyone? Well, we do have student teachers, or we may have people from outside of our district who choose to apply, for example. We also look at the teacher's credential and major and the familiarity with the subject or grade level content, and then try to make the best fit with the particular position based on the overall landscape of the needs. So we're just so delighted that we do have people signing up and excited. And I want to thank our superintendent, our board and cabinet for recognizing that we needed to incentivize the prioritization of summer school. And so it looks like so far that's working with our staffing. Can we have our next slide, please? All right. And switching gears a little bit, in terms of summer school, that's designed for the students, but we also have summer school for adults, and that's what we call our Summer Learning Institute or Summer Institute. And the theme of our Summer Institute is equity in action, our students, our future. We all know that we are so excited to support our young people, but sometimes we need our own learning as adults. So it says Teacher Summer Institutes, but I want to point out this is actually open to certificated staff. So it does include counselors and speech therapists and other folks. We'll be offering a week of summer learning for the adults in June and another experience for them in early August. This will be a full day of learning from 8:15 to 3:30, including we have some amazing keynote speakers that we're lining up, 3 workshops, and then school team time at the end of the day to have a shared reflective experience. We are offering this in person at San Marcos High School with virtual options for those who need it. And then we'll also have a Summer Leadership or Administrator Institute at the end of July. And this will be similar in the scope. And so that will be focused on the leadership team for Santa Barbara Unified. And again, we'll offer an in-person experience with virtual options on topics that are relevant for supporting our staffs at the school site. And all of these will be driven by how we started our presentation with diverse and responsive workforce aims. And it's just a really exciting, I'm really excited to see and participate in that week. And I hope that our board members will be able to stop by and see it in action as well. And with that, we'll wrap up and see if we might have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Trujillo, I do not see that we have any public comments on this item, correct?
Correct.
Great. Then I'll open it up to board members. Any questions, comments, or issues, please?
Thank you very much for that report. I'm extremely happy that this is happening. This is coming to be real and take place. A couple of board meetings ago, I asked about transportation for summer school, and unless I missed it, I didn't hear you mention transportation. So I want to make sure that we are offering transportation for all of our students, especially the academies, the newcomer academies.
Yes, we've actively been in discussions already with our transportation, and we'll make sure that we put that into our presentation for next time.
Great. And then one more question. Are we advertising? Are we informing the parents about this already? I'm just so overly excited. I want to make sure that they know and they sign up.
Absolutely. So we have developed a timeline as a team, and the team is great because it brings together people from all of the departments, really, from fiscal to ed tech services to student services and educational services. So we're HR, we're all in this team together to support the summer learning experience, both for the students and adults. And we know that our families are really important in that. So in our timeline, families will be expecting to be invited and hear about the experience more in the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of May. So we're right on track with that, even though it feels late in the year. We're on track with our own timelines per the pandemic. And so, yes, more coming very soon. And by our next board meeting, those will be going out already.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's working on this. Thank you to the teachers that have applied to work this summer school and everyone else. So thank you. I have no other questions.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Please, Ms. Sims-Martin.
I just want to echo the comments from Ms. Sister Member Alvarez, and just thank you for all of this. This is really, really exciting. And President Ford, I think we need a board summer institute. So just so we make it even down here. So I just want to make sure we included in the whole thing, right? So something to consider. We got to have some summer fun too, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Please, Ms. Munoz.
I have a comment. When I spoke earlier, I forgot to mention something that I attended the other weekend, which was really awesome. Super Saturday at McKinley School in support of the META program. And most of us were there. And I was there to be of support. And I had the pleasure of meeting one of our new upcoming special ed teachers who was there just to take it all in. And so I'm very excited about everyone, all the new teachers and staff that are coming on board and helping our students catch up this summer and continue their learning and socializing. Hello, thank you.
That's great. Well, for me, to our presenters, I just want to say thank you for a very visually appealing and easy to understand slide presentation. To the points that have been made, I think it'd be great to actually post that on the website or send it out in Parent Square and in English and in Spanish, because it gives people the idea, it gives them the reassurance that we have some great things on planned, and they are some great things. So thank you for all of that. I also, in my mind, I'm seeing this thing that's like a logo that says Soul 21. And, you know, it's a big bright sun, and maybe we got some t-shirts going. And I'm hoping that this isn't just the first and only year that we offer this for our students. And I'm really delighted about it. I also wanted to confirm that these are except for high school, which could be different. For K-8, these are invitations. No child is being forced to attend.
That is correct. We are screening and identifying the students most at need, and then we give access to the principals to help vet that list as well. And then again, as we mentioned in a previous report, we're really going to try to throw out the red carpet for the summer of learning, so that they will come on down and have a part of it. And I think your idea regarding t-shirts and water bottles is something that Assistant Sup Escobedo could definitely get behind.
Awesome. I saw her nodding. Yes.
You got it.
I think that's perfect. I'm really excited. I will say also that I watched a panel discussion about about summer learning recovery and all that within districts around the country. And one of the panelists said that a lot of places are just getting around to planning and thinking about the summer. And if they are just getting around to thinking about it, it will fall flat. It will not happen. And so tremendous kudos that this district and all of you have been working on this for a long time, and it will happen and it will be great. So thank you. With that, it's almost 8:30. Board members, it's time for a break since we started at 4:30. And so we'll take a 10-minute break. And Mr. Rouse has promised me that he's going to put a countdown clock on the screen so you can just see where you are on the 10 minutes. And we're back. We'll return to our action items. We are on number 10. This is for the approval of the new certificated management job description of Assistant Principal for Student Outcomes. And for that, I'll turn this item over to Dr. Becchio.
Sure. Thank you very much. And to start this item, I'd like to turn the mic over to Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Dr. Becchio. Board members, I'd like to share a couple of slides to set the scene for items 10 to 15, to 14. And I'd like to start by sharing this graphic, which you've seen at several of our meetings. And as you know, when I was hired to come to Santa Barbara Unified, one of the things I talked about in my 90-day plan was this listening and learning before leading tour that would give me a chance to learn about the organization. And as I've been doing that while leading through this pandemic, this graphic organizer was meant to really help us look at what I've learned about the district so far in collaboration with our cabinet and others, but it's really meant to anchor the work that we are doing. And the way that I think about this graphic is that it helps us to look at how we can organize our resources, both human and fiscal, and align all our work structures so that as we're working together to becoming a more student-centered, unified TK-12 school district, we can continue to remind ourselves of the why of the work, and that is why you see students at the center of our circle graphic. The 5 key areas that we're working on are family, learning, sustainable operations, wellness, and educators. But we also bring to this work how we're going to measure ourselves against some of this work and how the lens through which we're going to focus our work, which is equity, accountability, and creating a positive, inclusive climate and culture. So I wanted to just take a moment to express that to you. You can see that under educators, we're looking at creating a diverse and responsive educator workforce. Under family, we're looking to improve on effective family engagement and community partnerships. Under learning, we want to have inclusive teaching and learning practices at all levels of the system. Under sustainable operations, we want to make sure that our fiscal, food, and facilities, business areas are sustainable and look at ways that we can improve on the ways we provide our services. And lastly, of course, and centered to this work is creating supportive health and wellness programs for our students and staff. On our next slide, you'll notice that we also will have some goals around the student-centered work that we need to do. These goals are not the superintendent's personal goals, but actual goals informed by the many different items we've been bringing to you. One of them, which was the equity resolution that you brought forward in January, the work done in the previous years, multilingual excellence transforming achievement plan, or known as the META plan, which had lots of student, parent, community, teacher engagement. Work like the local control accountability plan, or the LCAP, which includes the learning continuity plan, the significant disproportionality plan, the Black Youth Demands in June 2020, currently Future Leaders of America Youth Demands, also guidance from our state and federal around expanding learning opportunities, and the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, which otherwise known as the ESSER Fund, our own internal budget, and of course, student outcome data. I want to point out that we have had a lot of outreach events in spite of the pandemic and contacts with our families and staff since the start of the school year. It sounds like a lot. This number of 28,000 includes phone calls made to families by our family engagement unit to the tune of 2,700, contacts with parents, town halls, forums, information sessions, and task force meetings, Parent Square posts, dozens of video messages, as well as our weekly staff newsletter, both messages from both the central office and our school principals. And the list goes on and on. Of course, in a different time and place, we would look at these efforts a little differently and would be done in person. I wanted to highlight these here tonight because I wanted to make sure that, again, these student-centered goals are informed by many of these outreach events. In our next slide, you'll notice, so what are the student-centered goals? What is it that we want to achieve? We want to, of course, increase our language literacy and math achievement, TK through 12. We want to decrease significant disproportionality over identification of Latino students in special ed. We want to increase A through G preparation for all students. Of course, A through G equals coursework students have to complete to qualify to enter into a four-year college or university. We want to be able to implement equitable responses to student behavior with an equity lens. We want to engage families and cultivate community partnerships and nurture student health and wellness. Again, these student-centered goals are informed by the previous plans that I have mentioned, as well as the events that we have held to outreach through the different stakeholders in our district. In our next slide, I want to represent that under this work, we want to make sure that, next slide, please. As we increase workforce to represent our diverse student population, we brought to you last month the request to hire a human resource specialist, as we also look at sustainability of our budget through diminishing our contract with an outside agency to do some of the hiring and do some of that work internally. We also will be bringing to you next month our plan that addresses some of these goals that I've outlined through the multi-tiered system of supports for every student. To that end, I want you to know that as we think about who will do some of this work and we prepare to hire people in the season of hiring under our education system, which is this month, next month, we want to be able to bring to you the idea that we're building a bench of leaders. We want to build capacity to have in place over the coming years. We know that some of this funding that we have in place will be temporary funding. And as we look at funding systems that will remain past our temporary funding streams, we want to ensure that positions like what John will talk about in a few minutes, elementary assistant principals, to increase our total to 5 in elementary by adding 3 using general funds. Looking at a K-8 assistant principal, also using general funds. Adding some additional language and literacy teachers on special assignment through our federal and state emergency relief funds, and restructuring our secondary assistant principal position. While it may seem that these are mostly administrative positions, I want to make sure that we're clear that we're implementing lots of new programming, as you have seen through our reports today, including summer school. And if we're going to embark on this journey, we want to consider that it will require a significant amount of additional administrative support. It's a small percentage of what we're using the funds for when we look at a $38 million investment from both federal and state funds, which again are temporary funds. If we get approval for these tonight, we can begin to recruit for these specific positions and get the best hires possible in the peak season for hiring. We don't want to miss this window and have less candidates to choose from. In subsequent meetings, you will see that we are planning to increase staffing in other areas of our system that are actually required by some of the funds, such as paraprofessionals and additional teachers, additional counselors that we can use to mitigate some of these student goals that I've outlined. In thinking about how we position these funds, we also know that we have an opportunity to, in the next couple of years, study the effects of some of these personnel investments. And one of the things that I want to represent here is that we want to invest in the people in the system, not necessarily in a program. One of the things I've learned over my 30 years of experience in education is that there isn't a magic program. There isn't a one-size-fits-all when it comes to investing in a program for students. Students are unique learners, and being able to build the capacity and the skill sets of our teachers, our counselors, and others through work like multi-tiered systems of support, work on equity issues, work on language and literacy, which we've brought to you last month, the need for a well-defined program for emergent multilingual learners is key to this work, and having additional staff to do that work will only improve our teachers' skills. Next slide, you will see that the budget options that we are looking at for some of this funding are laid out here. We're still in the midst of course, doing additional outreach for our LCAP plan, or Local Control Accountability Plan. And we have looked at our projected staffing expenditures, which we are proposing. We spend about 6% on administration, 49% on certificated staff, and 45% on classified support staff salaries. So as I look at bringing the beginning of some of these administrative positions to support many of the initiatives you're hearing about tonight, and that you'll hear more about in the coming couple of meetings in May, leading up to our final budget in June, I wanted to be sure that I had an opportunity to represent how these will be phased in over time and be very clear that they are for the express purpose of improving student-centered outcomes. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Vecchio so he can begin to outline the different positions we're bringing. And I don't know, President Ford, would you like to have me pause for some questions on these before we get into the positions, or how would you like to proceed?
No, I think we should go forward, but I just want to personally thank you, because I think giving this umbrella understanding to all of us and the expectation that this is part of a very big plan to support our students is amazing. So thank you. But let's go forward with Dr. Becchio.
Great. So with following that presentation, what I thought we would do is I will present just general information briefly about each of the items. And that way you have a background or a backdrop into that particular position, what the intent is, and then open it for you all to ask questions around that item, and then we can move on to the next one if you're agreeable to that.
I'm not sure I understand how that's different from what we usually do. Say it again.
Just that I'm
please.
going to give a brief, just a brief introduction to the context of this position, and I'll turn it to you for questions. So I won't have a presentation that's lengthy on each of them.
Sure, that's great.
But feel free, any questions, because this was a team effort. So we have all of our team that can be here to answer your questions around these positions.
And again, we did receive all the related documents already.
Great. So the item, I believe it's item 10, we're
Yes.
starting on. So the assistant principal student outcomes, this particular item, I just wanted to provide a context around the secondary assistant principals. And the way the structure is at the secondary schools is that each school has a team of administrators, usually 2 or 3. High schools are a little bit bigger. They have assistant principals and deans. And the assistant principals fall under one job description. That job description, essentially within that, each assistant principal is assigned areas of responsibility. So it could be student services, attendance, it could be athletics, what else? Facilities and operations. And so what this proposal is it's really following along the lines of the vision that was presented in the equity resolution that you all passed. And that is, we want to focus one of those leadership positions at each of our secondary schools on student outcomes. And so the job description that you will see actually highlights that. So there's a very intentional focus at every single school on the things that are all things student outcome, interventions, data analysis, the supports for teachers in order to achieve the student outcomes that we need. The other point I wanted to make, and then I'll turn it over to you, is that we also just hired a director of school performance and student outcomes. And so this was also intentional in the sense that we will have a team of secondary administrators that director can be in constant contact with and working directly with around interventions and data. And so with that, I know that you got a chance to see the job description, and I'll turn it over to the board for any questions you might have for our team.
Could I just clarify that then within the assistant principal positions at secondary, there's one that says assistant principal secondary, and then there's assistant principal student outcomes, 2 job descriptions.
That's correct, and we'll hire that position specifically for those details in that job description. And I wanted to also mention that there's not an increase to the budget around this actual move. It's just a change of the job description or adding a job description. We're going to repurpose one of the leadership positions at those sites to perform this function.
Meaning though that eventually someone might leave a position and you would fill the specific position based on what the need is at the school, either student outcomes or general assistant
That's
principal.
correct.
It's the only question I had. Other board members? I see no questions, so I'd like to call for, it's okay to go ahead then, John? We'll just
Yes,
go on.
yes, please.
So I'd love to call for, we don't have any public comments either, as far as I can tell. So I'd like to call for the approval of this position of secondary, it's actually assistant principal for secondary student outcomes.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. So all in favor of this position, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This motion passes unanimously. And on to number 11, please.
All right, thank you very much. And this item is the approval of 3 additional certificated management, the assistant principals at the elementary. You'll be familiar with this, as 2 years ago we implemented the hiring of 2 assistant principals for elementary, the first ever elementary assistant principals in our district. And those 2 positions served 4 schools. They split themselves between two of our larger schools each. And that really was, the intention then was to conduct a pilot of of how that worked in terms of support and leadership development. And so what we're bringing to you tonight is a follow-up on that, but it's actually really timely because, as Dr. Maldonado mentioned, the type of work that we're engaging in terms of the personnel we're hiring, the initiatives that we're engaging in, all those require the leadership to make sure that there's accountability in place and there's a quality of work in place, and that those programs get implemented with fidelity. And so that's part of this. The last thing I'll state is that as a secondary person, mostly in terms of my background, the investment in elementary is so critically important because we cannot be a district that relies on secondary to do the remediation. And so we have to have students getting the skills and knowledge in that time frame in elementary so they're prepared to do the secondary schooling that's required and not the remediation. And so this is yet, I just wanted to mention, this is yet another investment in leadership in the elementary that will help the principal be able to be an instructional leader, help the AP to be an instructional leader. They both will have a collaborative team together that they can, the principal can delegate authority to, run the school. There's just a lot to do, and there will be much more coming. With that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions you might have.
Thank you. We do not have any public comment on number 11 either. So board members, any questions, comments? Please, Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Dr. Maldonado. And thank you, Dr. Becchio, and especially for answering all my questions today in the afternoon. I know that administrators have a big impact on students, and I appreciate that. I know that from personal experience. They do a lot of work. They make home visits and all of that good stuff. And I also appreciate, Dr. Maldonado, that you mentioned that we will be discussing at the next board meeting additional supports that will be directly in the classroom, such as paraprofessionals and supports for teachers. Of course, I want to keep focus on where the rubber hits the road, that it's the classroom. And with this new funds that we're getting, it's such an opportunity for us to look into maybe even smaller class sizes, paraprofessionals. I do worry when there's 30 students in a classroom and teachers are expected to do differentiated instruction. They have special ed, they have EMLs. So thank you for bringing that, putting that in perspective, that we will be discussing that at the next board meeting at May 11th. So I'm looking forward to that. In addition to that, I want to make sure that we keep in mind that these positions are reviewed in an annual basis and depending on funding. I was looking at the funding at the multi-year projections today before the board meeting, and I know we have to keep a really close eye on our revenue and expenditure. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that this will be up for review again at the next budget cycle. So, oh, and then one more thing. We talk about MTSS and improving student outcomes. How do we measure that? How do we know we're making progress? What's our return on investment? So that's something I like to hear about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members, please, Ms. Sims-Moulton.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maldonado, and so far, Dr. Becchio. I know you're going to be further down the line, but I want to say, I know we've gotten several emails with regards to these items that are here, and I appreciate the emails and the input from the public. But I see this as really a system, and as you started, you stated earlier about it not being programs, right? It's really about a system that we're strengthening, and that includes people and the positions in the right place and space to do that, because that helps us meet, obviously, our mission when we're preparing our students for a world yet to be created. We have to have a system that is strong enough to be able to do that, and one that is adaptable to the changes that come, such as there's so much that we learned during COVID. So we have to have a system that's interchangeable, adaptable to the needs of the students and the environment looking at that. And with that being said, I hear investments and rubber meets the road. I see all that. But I think what's, in your comment, Dr. Becchio, with regards to investment, we can't wait to secondary to look at remedial. I think we even have to go a step back further and start to look at preschool. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see much more investments in those early years. That's the optimal time where, number one, we can start to really look at the brain development, where it's most optimal, and at the earliest that we're catching parents which is crucial, to the success of students and to the success of us making sure that by the time they get to third grade, they're strong and they're ready. And so I want us to really look at that. And I would also maybe want us to consider us not just being a TK through 12. I'd like to see a P through 12, because we have a preschool. We have preschools, and I think we really are missing an opportunity when we don't include them in our investments. So I'd like to see somehow we bring that forward, and including in the budget, because that is where the rubber's going to meet the road. Because the people who are coming in stronger, the parents are coming in more informed. They're already starting to look at different things that they need to do and be prepared. Because you think the earliest influence, I heard someone say, the earliest influences in our lives are our parents. And so we start there and support the families and support these kids when they're ready to learn. And so in First 5 is we're going to be making a presentation at the end of next month where we're ready and standing to do that, to work with these districts, because these are the anchors of the community. The students who are here, they're learning, they're the anchors, they're to make the community strong. And so I don't want to miss the opportunity to include preschool as an investment on the very beginning. So I'd like to see that more in the budget.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, then I'd like to call for a motion to approve the 3 additional certificated management staff positions, specifically assistant principals in elementary.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten. Is there a second? Ms. Capps, thank you. So now I'd like to ask the board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. And now on to number 12, the TOSA positions, 3 new certificated teacher on special assignment for language and literacy positions in the elementary school. Dr. Becchio.
Thank you again. In the spirit of building a system, which is very accurate of what we're trying to do, and also another investment in elementary. And also I will say, although I will state that leadership has a absolutely hugely profound impact on the classroom and what happens in the classroom. This is a proposal for direct services in the classroom with teachers on assignment in each elementary school, one set of 2 schools sharing a TOSA, but being there on campus in classrooms, providing direct support to students and teachers. So the proposal here before you is we already have 5 language and literacy coaches, and this is a proposal to add an additional 3. And again, that is to allow for one person to be on a site as that site's language and literacy coach. And with that, I will turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you. We do not have any public comments on this item, so I'd like to turn it over to the board for any comments or questions. Please, Ms. Munoz.
Yes, more of a comment, and I appreciate, Dr. Becchio and Dr. Maldonado giving us the overall picture of how this is going to be. Of course, with meeting as you were saying, the Black students and their demands in 2020, and then the future leaders of America, student demands and such, and what we've talked about is equity and diversity. Is that I'd certainly like to encourage to continue to have hiring TOSAs that would reflect the diversity of our students, to be inclusive of the LGBTQ students and their families, the students of color, students of indigenous groups, especially here locally, the Shumash, and also emergent language learners. So anything that we can do in that regard is certainly, has my support.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that forward.
Certainly, thank you.
Please, Ms. Alvarez.
I have some questions in regards to our current TOSAs. What schools do they serve, our current TOSAs? The ones that I think you said we have 5?
That we currently have 5, yes, and I believe they serve all schools. They're just splitting between schools.
I get it. And how are they chosen? Do they apply for the job? Is this advertised and any teacher has the opportunity to apply for the job?
Yes, they'll be advertised but within our own teaching ranks. So internally advertised, and then teachers will express their interest through applying for the positions.
Okay, great. Then a couple of other some of the emails that we got, they were asking about having a TOSA for newcomers. Is that something that's in your mind already, or what's your suggestion about that?
I would like to address that. Just like all learners, we have various types of learners in the emergent multilingual system. I don't believe that it bears a full-time position for that population of students. I do expect that language and literacy TOSAs would be able to serve the spectrum of needs of students, from the emergent multilingual beginning learner all the way to our gifted learners of whatever language proficiency they are, whatever ethnicity, socioeconomic. These are supposed to be language and literacy experts that can meet the needs of all students. So I don't believe with the small number of the newcomer population in Santa Barbara Unified and the fact that they're all over the place, it would bear out to have one full-time position. But it does mean that as we build capacity of teaching staff and experts like TOSAs, that we talk about all the different needs of students. And that's that student-centered lens, that ability to look at the different assessments that we will give to know what exactly each child will need.
Great, thank you. And remind me, do the TOSAs work directly with the students, and they also work with the teachers? Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct. We would call this job-embedded professional development, where the TOSAs can demonstrate with a group of students. They can also take on a group of students as needed, but they would do it in collaboration with teachers, because by the end of these 3 years, if we don't have any more investments in this kind of work, we expect that the capacity was left behind with all teachers.
And you did mention at the beginning of your report that these 3 positions are going to be from the ESSER funds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you. I have no other questions.
May I just add, you made a comment earlier, and I want to make sure I emphasize what you said, which I thank you for bringing that up. These positions are temporary positions. So folks that apply and get these jobs will be told that these are on an annual per budget availability positions. I believe that's a little bit of a shift in the culture of Santa Barbara Unified. It's something that I'm very familiar with from the system that I come from, where you work on a year-to-year basis. And so we'll make sure that we make that very clear to the employee. They still get to keep their job. So if a teacher wants to be a TOSA, they can step out of the classroom for a year or 2 or 3. Maybe they'll go back, maybe they'll move up the ranks of Santa Barbara Unified and become the next assistant principal. And so there's a pipeline of building leadership in some of this work, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear that they are temporary positions. Thank you for that earlier too.
Ms. Sims-Moton.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to Ms. Munoz's comment with regards to diversity of teachers based on the demands of both our future leaders and the Black students. So if these are TOSAs who are within the system right now, how will you increase the diversity?
Well, I would just say that our selection process, it'll actually be screening, application, and selection. So those are three aspects of the hiring process. What we've done, the work we've done since the resolution that you've had and over the fall is how do we look at those 3 processes and make them processes that really focus in on, can the people that we're hiring, do they have the experience, background, skills, and knowledge for sure to actually serve the students, the diverse student population that we have. So that means, in that process, we've looked at what questions are we asking on the application. Those questions now are asking about their experience working with diverse populations. We want to know about that. We want to know about their background and what led them into education and working with populations of students from diverse backgrounds, so that the answers we get to the questions can give us a glimpse into whether they have a background or life experience that will lend itself to serving our students. And so that'll happen through the screening and selection and application process. And then in the actual selection process, which is the interview and the panel, and obviously it matters the makeup of our panel that interviews people. But it also, another factor is the actual questions we ask in there, the rubric we use around selection, the instructions we give to panel members. So all this has been something our team has looked at over the fall, and now we're implementing in our teacher hiring. So, you know, that's kind of an extensive process when we have a new person, but some of those same tenets will be used when we're hiring people into our TOSA positions. Are they representative of the students we serve or the programs that we're actually having them serve in? So for example, if they're serving in a DLI support position as a teacher on special assignment, we're going to look for teachers that might have experience in that or have an upbringing in that or are bilingual for certain. And so those are the kind of things that we've put into place to try to get at that very question.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I would get that because that does make sense. Your experience may be able to teach the diversity of our students, but where are you outreaching to? Because even though that experience may be your life experience, your upbringing, is still a reflection of, do I see myself in the students, in the teachers? Do I see that? So I think that's a crucial part in terms of where are you also then looking, how diverse are you looking outside that pool to make sure that along with the life experience and the ability to work with diversity, that it reflects what I look like too.
Correct, and that's the recruitment piece, which I didn't mention in the beginning, but the recruitment piece is also a big part of that.
Okay.
A big part of that. And I don't know if you want a direct answer to that at this point, but
well, if you have it, but otherwise I can wait.
I do. So we, you know, the one big connection that I've made this fall is with Cal State Channel Islands, and they have a residency program where they place student teachers in our schools for 1 year. They're as residents working with another teacher, and then they are then hired the next year by us, I think for usually a 2 or 3 year, usually 2 years because of the probationary status. But so that connection that I've made there is, I think, going to be very fruitful. They have, first of all, a very large bilingual educator population, but it's also a school that is offering a public-private partnership in terms of funding of the actual program in return for us guaranteeing that we'll hire that position. So it's similar to the Peak Fellowship that we do with UCSB. And so I'm very interested in that connection there. I have met once with Endowment for Youth about the possibility of getting a couple residents for students that have been a part of their group that might be interested in either teaching program or maybe school psychology department down there. So that's just kind of one of the examples of, I think, what you're referring to, which is the recruitment with a focus on getting to a diverse workforce.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and thank you for that answer. And I won't belabor it any more. We can talk about it a little later, but I think it's really important in terms of the reflection of, it is in our recruitment, but it is how you look and how you can I see someone there, you know, with regards to how I look, you know, in terms of that, and go to a different well. The endowment youth had been here for a long time, so get outside of that. Go outside, you know, outside that box and look out. You know, we got a big old Los Angeles down there, other, you know, where you really have that diverse property. That's even up north in terms of that. And I know all the constraints of that, but I think we need to step outside of that so that we see that effort being done to ensure that, again, even our recruitments reflect our student population.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that in mind, may I ask for a motion to approve the 3 new certificated teacher on special assignment, TOSA, for language and literacy in the elementary schools positions?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten. So board members, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This motion passes unanimously. And yes, the next one to Dr. Becchio, number 13.
Well, 2 more after this. All right, well, this one, the context to this is really about your appointment, Brian Rouse, to Chief Information Officer. As you know, his skills and expertise and the change in that department to the leader of that department being really focused on information and data technology, data information systems, et cetera. So as we expressed before, the need in that department is to in Ed Tech Services is to make sure that now the director position that is vacant come July 1 because of Brian's move, we need to fill that position. But before we do, we wanted to actually revise the job description. So you'll see that the old job description is it should be attached. Did you get the old one? Did you?
I didn't see it, but maybe I looked too quickly.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that you didn't get it. There's not a strike through on the current job description, the one that's being proposed, because if you look at the two together, they are so completely different, both structurally, and the contents of them are so different that writing it via strike through would be near impossible. And so, but what you'll notice in the new job description is a very intentional and pretty heavy focus on instructional technology integration. And so that really is what the new director position will be. And it is not an addition to the budget, because that is a position that already exists in the budget. And so with that, I will turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you. We do not have any public comments on this item either, so I'll turn it over to board members for any questions or comments. Hearing none, I will now ask for a motion to, to approve the revised management job description of Director of Education Technology Services.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez, and a second.
Second.
Thanks, Ms. Capps, sorry. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Aye. This motion passes unanimously. And now number 14, Dr. Becchio, for the approval of new certificated management job description for Assistant Principal K-8.
All right, well, thank you very much. And as you'll know, as we build this system, there is a spot that will still be left without an assistant principal position. That is actually at the La Cumbre campus. And so this proposal is really given a job description that allows for a K-8 assistant principal, because the intention here is to have that assistant principal serve both of those schools. La Cumbre is actually both schools are a small school with big needs, and there will be program implementations there as well, just like all the rest of the schools. And so what we're proposing is to have this assistant principal split their time between the schools and allow them to actually have the support that the other schools also are getting. And so this proposal, I'll turn over to you for questions at this point.
I think I'll just comment that I think that of all the positions, this one is the most fragile for me, because it is it's a pretty big ask for someone to have the right kind of skills to interact from K to 8. I'm not saying it's impossible. I do think it's difficult to find the right person, and so I'm very excited that we have the desire to do this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we make this happen. And that I would just hope that within our secondary, elementary and secondary collaboration, really, Anna and Sean, that they're really trying to make this one position work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Capps.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I was happy to see this, in part just given, I know that it's been a priority over the years to really make sure that those two schools are connected and working well. And so I thought that's an intriguing, I understand, potentially unconventional, but an intriguing job description. So as President Ford said, I wish you luck in finding the right person to fit that role.
I was looking over at all the junior highs and their staffing ratios, and I'm glad I had that conversation with you today, Dr. Maldonado and Dr. Becchio, because in looking at the admin ratio of all the junior highs, they're close right now, right? The junior high, Santa Barbara Junior High, Goleta Valley, La Colina, La Cumbre, they're close. 3 of the Santa Barbara Junior High, Goleta Valley, and La Colina have a principal, a dean, and an assistant principal. La Cumbre has 2 FTEs, a principal and a dean. And you are proposing to add an additional administrator. So and I figure about half time, because the other half will be at the academy. So when I look at the ratio, if this is approved, now the ratio is going to be almost 100 students less to this La Cumbra than to the other junior highs. And what you explained to me is because of the student needs, not necessarily because of enrollment. So that made sense after you said that. One of the things that I'm very much interested in is on the outcomes. We have a lot of needs, the students have a lot of needs. What's the return on investment? How are we going to measure outcomes and the before and after? So I'm very much interested in getting updates on that and bringing reports to, if the rest of the board wants to hear it. If not, I'm happy to hear it in an individual basis of how are we improving the student outcomes. So I'm very much interested in hearing about that. Thank you.
I would like to respond that yes, and in our report next month on the multi-tiered system of support, we'll be sure to include some of that language. I know that you've asked before for measurement around student outcomes for this and for emerging multilingual learners, and that's the whole premise of what a multi-tiered system of supports does, both academic outcome and behavior outcome. So treating the whole child and the context in which they're at will be part of that formula. So we will bring that. Thank you.
I'd also like to just mention that I think that although it's neat and tidy to think 50-50, I don't think that we should expect that it's 50-50. You know, schools are so different. Perhaps there's a very big need at the academy for 4th grade support or something. So I'd like to think that it's up to the administrators and the schools to really decide how this works and what the ratios are, because we've already spent quite a bit of time saying that we need a lot of support at our elementary schools.
Yes, we also discussed that today during our conversation. It was the calculation was for the calculation only.
Yes.
And we know that the schools, they're almost a combined entity just because where they're located.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see no other questions or comments. So for that reason, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the new certificated management job description of assistant principal for the K-8 purposes.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten. Board members, all in favor of this, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This position also passes unanimously. And the next two items, I will introduce Dr. Becchio to bring them forward. They are super important, especially as we've spent so much time today talking about our employees and the amazing contributions they make to our district. Please, Dr. Becchio.
Thank you. Well, I'll start by saying maybe people get sick of me hearing me say this, and that is that our people do the most important work on the planet. And these two items, the last two items of the night, I think, oh no, I'm sorry, we have another presentation, but nonetheless, on the action agenda, they are the last two items. And it's really an opportunity for us to take a moment and appreciate, recognize that May is Employee Appreciation Month, and there are many opportunities to honor and recognize our employees and show appreciation for them. And so I really implore the community to do that next month. So these two resolutions, the one is a resolution in collaboration with both bargaining units. They support this and put it forward. And I will say that those opportunities are important ones to recognize the specific positions within our organization and the days that they may be honored. One of them in particular, the CDE recommends May 1st for Principal Appreciation, or I think is it called Principal?
School Principal
School
Day.
Principal Day, that's right. And so I wanted to mention though that this year that falls on a Saturday, so I want to recommend that the public be aware of that and send an email or a text message, or if you see your principal at some activity on a Saturday, give them a pat on the shoulder, but it is on a Saturday this year. With that, I'd like to turn it over to
Ms. Munoz.
Ms. Munoz, Board Member Munoz, to read the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Becchio. I'd like to read resolution number 2020 21-31 of the Board of Education recognizing May as Employee Appreciation Month, the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas certificated, classified management, and other education professionals provide valuable services to the students of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. And whereas certificated, classified management, and other educational professionals contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive and productive instructional environment. And whereas certificated, classified management, and other education professionals serve a vital role in providing for the welfare, safety, and educational needs of Santa Barbara Unified School District students. And whereas certificated, classified management, and other education professionals employed by the Santa Barbara Unified School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Whereas the Board of Education declares May 1st, 2021 as School Principals Day in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas the Board of Education declares the week of May 3 to 7, 2021 as National Teacher Appreciation Week in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas the Board of Education declares the week of May 3rd to 7th, 2021 as School Nutrition Employee Week in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas the Board of Education declares May 4th, 2021 as National Teacher Appreciation Day in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas the Board of Education declares May 12th, 2021 as California Day of the Teacher in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Day of the Teacher arose out of legislation co-sponsored by the California Teachers Association and the Association of Mexican American Educators. Senator Joseph Montoya wrote the bill and it was adopted in 1982. California has patterned its celebration after the traditional El Día del Maestro festivities observed in Mexico and other Latin American countries. Whereas the Board of Education declares May 12, 2021 as National School Nurse Day in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Whereas the Board of Education declares the week of May 17th to 2021 as Classified School Employee Week in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Therefore, be it resolved that the Santa Barbara Unified School District hereby recognizes and wishes to honor the contribution of the certificated and classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Thank you very much. So now board members may ask for a motion to approve the resolution 2020-21-31, recognizing certificated, classified management and other education professionals of Santa Barbara Unified School District.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz.
Second.
And a second to Ms. Alvarez. Board members, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously with much gratitude. And on to number 16, another adoption. Dr. Becchio.
Thank you very much. And this one is one that is submitted to us in HR by Chapter 37 of CSEA. And we, on their behalf, present it to the board for adoption. And it is a recognition of Classified School Employee Week. And so I would like to just remind us that we all know the importance of our classified staff, but this year really has shined a light on the work that they do and the support that they provide us to keep us safe and keep our buildings open and running smoothly, and food to our kids and staff. And so this is a really important year. I think we saw the impact that classified staff has on us. So I want to turn this over to Board Member Sims-Moten, I believe, to read this resolution.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Becchio. It is with honor and gratitude and appreciation that I read the resolution number 2020-21-32, recognizing May 17th through 21st, 2021 as Classified School Employee Week. Whereas classified professionals provide valuable services to the schools and students of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. And whereas classified professionals contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment. And whereas classified professionals serve a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Santa Barbara Unified School District students. And whereas classified professionals employed by the Santa Barbara Unified School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Santa Barbara Unified School District hereby recognizes and wishes to honor the contribution of the classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and in the Santa Barbara Unified School District, and declares the week of May 17th through 21st, 2021 as Classified School Employees Week in Santa Barbara Unified School District. And I would like for us to stand, because this has been a really mighty week for all of these. If we could just stand and give them all a hand.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So at this time, it is my honor to ask for a motion to approve the resolution 2020-21-32, declaring the week of May 17th through 21, 2021 as Classified School Employee Week in the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten, and a second to Ms. Alvarez.
Yes, with great honor, I second that motion.
All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This motion passes unanimously. And that concludes the action agenda for tonight. We now will go on to our final report, and this report is titled LCAP Needs Assessment Stakeholder Engagement Update, and that will be presented by the LCAP team. Please go forward.
I believe it'll be Steve Vance leading this presentation tonight. Is that correct, Mr. Vance? Are you there?
Good evening, everybody. Yes. Good evening, Board President Ford, board members, Superintendent Dr. Maldonado, teachers, staff, and families. This evening, I bring to you an update about the development of our 2021-24 Local Control Accountability Plan, otherwise known as the famous LCAP. The last board presentation regarding the development of our local control accountability plan occurred on February 9th. So I'd like to give you an update on what has taken place since that last February presentation and what will be occurring in May. Next slide, please. As you can see, this current slide, which was shown to you in February, demonstrates the LCAP development timeline. As of February, we have done the following 4 actions. We have gathered and analyzed data, and we're continuing to do this. And the data that I'm discussing in particular comes from the California dashboard. It also comes via support from ETS. So we've been using STAR data, reading, math data, suspension data, as well as chronic absenteeism data. And that the data has spanned from actually 2018 and 19 school year to the current school year. So we've been using that information to guide our discussions. Number 2, we're receiving recommendations and guidance from our district stakeholders, and we're going to continue to do that as well. Number 3, taking all of this information and creating a draft of our annual updates for our 1920 LCAP and our 2021 Learning Continuity Plan. And with that, we've been developing 3 potential broad goals as we've been working on this process since February. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have our 4 stakeholders. We are engaging all of the stakeholder groups to attain information about their experiences during this last school year and this school year. It's been an unprecedented school year, and it's so important to get feedback from them. The school dashboard that goes to 2019, and then after that, the data that was collected was postponed. So it's particularly important at this time to get more information from the people who've been experiencing the school year, which are our 4 stakeholders or those groups, and receiving recommendations from them for the design of the LCAP. And with our stakeholders, this includes meeting with them as well as doing surveys. And some of the groups include our Santa Barbara Teachers Association, our California School Employee Association, Special Education Parents Advisory Council, as well as the LCAP Parent Advisory Committee. And at schools, we also have principals meeting with their staff, meeting with families, as well as school site councils or school site advisory committees discussing the LCAP as well. So we have our school site councils, our ELAC, and so on, as well as the schools meeting with community members. Next slide, please. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about specifically tonight is our Parent Advisory Committee. So we recruited the parents to participate with this year's committee. 2 important items to be aware of is that, 1, we had 67 parents sign up to participate and to commit to be involved with our PAC. This year, we included each committed parent to be a member of the committee. So no one was turned down to not be a member of the committee. So we accepted everyone, all 67 who committed to do this work. The second thing is that our PAC members represent our student population, which is particularly important, as you know. If you'll notice with this graph in particular, the breakdown of race is that we have 62.7% of our members are Latinx, 31.3% are white, and 6% are other. Home language spoken, 48.5% of our committee members speak Spanish at home, 46.5% speak English, and 5% other. Next slide, please. We have 23.5% of our PAC members are designated as homeless. We have 39.7% of our PAC members are designated as socioeconomically disadvantaged, and 55.9% of our PAC members represent children, their children specifically, who are or were emergent multilingual learners. And just a little thing to know as well is half of the committee participating, they're participating for the first time and learning about the LCAP. So they come in knowing little to nothing about the LCAP. And so those are our committee members. Our first meeting occurred on March 30th. All of the meetings are 90 minutes in length. The first meeting really consisted of providing the the members information about the LCAP and providing information, making sure that everyone was on the same playing field. So everyone understood what we were talking about. So 75% of that meeting consisted of us talking and presenting to them. And then we received 25% of that, 25% of that time, we were receiving input from them. And we also knew that we wanted to flip that so we can hear mostly from the parents and spend much less time talking to them. We just wanted to make sure that we brought everyone up to speed so everyone was at the same level. So the second meeting that we held on April 19th, that actually flipped from 78% parent input, and we were using small group breakouts during our meeting, as well as whole group. And then we had 22% of our time, we were providing information updates to them, as well as just giving them directions about what we were doing. So those were the 2 meetings. And in the next couple of slides, I'll discuss what we'll be doing as we move ahead. So next slide, please. Yeah, next
Give us
slide.
a moment, Mr. Vance. We have
Oh,
a
okay.
frozen screen here. Just hang tight. Thank you.
You know what, as we're waiting for the next slide, I could just give you the information regarding it. It has to do with the survey that went out. So the LCAP surveys were sent out to all of our stakeholder groups during March and April. The survey window opened as of Monday, March 15th, and closed on Friday the 9th. Here's what's important to know is that we received 5,211 responses for the surveys. And if you could see the breakdown of the participants of the surveys, or the responses that we received. So for example, we received almost 3,000 surveys or results from the students, as well as we received, you could see everything there on the screen. But what's really important to know is that I looked at the numbers from 2018 and 2019 survey. So comparing the participants who responded to those surveys, with those surveys in 2018 and 19, we had 302 students respond compared to almost 3,000. And we had 243 parents responding compared to, as you can see, almost 1,400 to 1,500 parents responding. We had 129 employees responding compared to the 641. And then we had 2 committee members, or 2, sorry, not committee, but community members compared to 100 or 110. So with that said, right now that we're taking this information from the surveys and we're compiling them, analyzing the surveys and coding them so that we can gather up thorough information and create a report so we can share that report with our stakeholders, including the PAC, including yourselves and everyone who's involved with this, so that we can give that to people next week. That's really our goal. Next slide, please. So with that being said, we have 2 meetings with the PAC, and so we're moving ahead to the future. So looking at our parent advisory committee, originally we had scheduled 3 committee meetings, and that was, as you could see, with the red, the blue, and the green. The parents came back and we heard comments saying we would like to have a little more time to discern what's being provided and to really have meaningful conversations. So we did add an additional meeting, which will be this Monday, May 3rd. And during that time, we'll review survey results and then also discuss and get feedback on potential focus goals, as well as getting the recommendations for all of this. And then the following May 17th meeting will actually review components of the draft of the 21-24, or it's actually 21-22 LCAP. Next slide, please. All right, so as we head into May, I already discussed what we'll be doing with the Parent Advisory Committee. So we'll continue to compile and analyze the data. There's still more that we're uncovering and learning about, and we're incorporating this to really drive the decisions that we're making in terms of what goals that we would like to have, our actions, expenditures, and so on. The second one is we will be completing the annual updates for the 1920 LCAP and the 2021 learning continuity plan. And then the last thing we'll be doing specifically will be to complete a draft or rough draft of the 21-22 LCAP for everyone's review and for your review. And we'll be continuing to provide reports directly to you as we move forward. So that's all I have at this time. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions.
Thanks. Before we open it up, first of all, Mr. Venz, welcome. So glad to have you here, and hope you feel the same. And we look forward to meeting you in person someday.
Exactly.
And also, we do have, I believe we have some, looks like he's here. We do have some public comments on this one, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Trujillo, please.
Thank you, President Ford. We do have 6 speakers on this item. I will name them all. Moni Duet, Roseanne Crawford, Delilah Santos, Sarah Clark, Renee Correa, and Sheridan Rosenberg. Now we'll start with Moni Duet.
Great, thank you for staying up and being willing to listen. So I'm on the Parent Advisory Committee, and I do want to say that it is really important that it be meaningful participation. And I understand how he's explaining that, maybe you want to get everybody on the same page in the first meeting, but in the second meeting, I guess the mood for me is that it feels more like the system protecting itself than really listening to the people. There was a lady who wanted to talk about suspension rates, and she got cut off because we were supposed to go into a group thing. I noticed a lot of that the priority was on the form of the meeting. And my big concern too is that I get like maybe more time to talk to you now, but I never get a response, so it's not engaging. And from all the material that I saw, here's the big concern, is that the money's being spent district-wide and not to the high-need students. And nobody's like given feedback about that. And also that some of the practices aren't evidence-based, and that is integral to the whole LCAP law, that we have to use evidence-based. So, and I think many of the people are concerned too that the money is going directly to the people that it's intended for. And even with Meta, some people can go, you can have somebody who's socioeconomically not disadvantaged and not in any of the groups and participate in Meta, but they shouldn't be getting that. That's taking money away from someone who might be in foster care or a multi-English language learner, or another one of the high needs. So it's really critical, and we want to talk about this, but a lot of the things we were forced to do were like, it felt a little bit like, well, what really works? And of course I talked about Franklin, but it wasn't really geared toward LCAP, and we have yet to see where the money's going or even a budget. And it's supposed to be transparent. And I want to know, I want like a list, and I've asked for it, but and it's very frustrating because I seriously want to be polite to my other members, but nobody really gets to say much or get the response loop. So there's not enough openness there, and you feel like you're just talking to yourself about something that really is, a lot of our students have painfully low scores in literacy and math, and I want to talk about that. And still all I can just do is kind of share my thoughts. And, feels like I'm really, that there's no one on the other end. And I know other people at the LCAP felt that, and a couple of people called me. And, there was a pediatrician who had great ideas too. And I just think I really want it to be more town hall, or give us a way to write to you and get a response. Because this is money that we haven't used properly. The last LCAP was flagged with a complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Roseanne Crawford. Ms. Crawford, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Lovely. I would like to request an extra 2 minutes. I'm not sure what happened internally with the meeting. It's been a bit awkward jumping around, but I had requested to speak in public comment and I was never called. And I know that there were 3 other people that signed up that just went off because they weren't called. And so I'm not sure what happened, but I hope you don't cut me off. I'm going to start with just a little public comment and then go to G3. I hope you'll give me that moment. Imagine this, McKinley School to offer both English immersion and bilingual education. 1 kindergarten through 5th grade to be an English immersion and bilingual aids and after school homework help. This would be a reasonable compromise and would make halfway legitimate the use of LCAP funds that specifically are for individual needs of emergent learners, low income, special needs children, foster and homeless children, and their families. These are the real stakeholders that want choice and don't want to be forced out of their neighborhood school at McKinley. Further, it's an illusion that they can opt out. All schools are full. Where would they go? If we had the transparency we keep asking for, this district wouldn't have to pay so much money to the PR firm. And that money could go directly to education. What a novel idea. It honestly has some wondering, is there more there to just meta with the LCAP funds? I did a little digging. Now I'm speaking to G3 specifically, LCAP. The Department of Education, July 30th, 2020, determined that the Los Angeles Unified School District violated the California State Education Finance Reform Act in its 2018, 19, and 1920 LCAP plans. And this happened when our superintendent was on duty. They failed to account for $2 billion, that's billion, not million, intended for high need students. Yes, the previous assistant superintendent at the LA, she's now our superintendent, began early July 2020 in the middle of the lawsuit. Well, okay, someone can say, well, that's LA Unified. Well, I just want to point out a few parallels here in looking under rocks and for things. That was early July 2020. These standards will not be tolerated here. To use LCAP funds for the Meta Dual Language Immersion Program, too many eyes in Santa Barbara. And they're wondering if there's more to this than meets the eyes. Follow the money. You board members are entrusted to do so. And it's a breath of fresh air to have some new people such as Stephen Benz that have been hired. So I hope there is hope. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Delilah Santos. Ms. Santos, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, all right. My name is Delilah Santos, and I, like many parents here at McKinley, are very thankful for all your hard work in making it possible for our children to return to school during these trying times. Yet, many families and I have just found out about the dual immersion program that McKinley wants to adopt. We are very concerned and ask why. Why McKinley? We need our children to prosper and be educated in this country's native language. All that have came to this beautiful country of opportunity have children, even though she has made great progress, she has fallen behind and is in a to help him understand at his level and language. To have all English track and teach are bilingual to help students as needed in class and an hour in their native language. Programs in Spanish serve Spanish learners, not children that are learning English. We can't wrap our heads around the concept that our children if we opt out and then find a way to take our children to and from school. Why? Because there's no buses provided by the district, because it's not our zone. The district is wiping their hands like Pilato. My child's therapist suggested a great program at another school for children with autism. I thought, awesome. So I went to the school and their answer was sorry, but he doesn't belong to the zone. Students in the zone have priority, a waiting list. This brings me to my next question. If we opt out, who will accept McKinley students if all the schools are full? Please stop this madness before it starts. I know your intentions are good to help children learn and prosper, but this is not the way. Keep McKinley and all English with the pull-out option with bilingual teachers' aides. Doing this will be a better way to spend LCAP funds. Then children learning Spanish, the school should offer an elective to learn Spanish throughout all grades. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Santos, this is Ms. Ford. I just wanted to let you know that your call kept going in and out, so please feel free to send us an email of your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sarah Clark.
Thank you, Board. My name is Sarah Clark, and I work as an educational facilitator with youth in the community. And I'm speaking tonight to express my concern regarding the LCAP survey. According to the charts published on the operationalizing equity slides for tonight's meeting, Spanish speakers were significantly underrepresented in comparison to their English-speaking counterparts among parents, community members, and students. Because of this underrepresentation, I'm concerned that these students' needs will not be given the attention and resources that they need and deserve if they're not appropriately taken into account in the survey. Within an English-dominant educational system, barriers to access and understanding are already known to contribute to tragic disparities among educational outcomes for students from households in which a language other than English is primarily spoken. For this reason, I'm concerned that the survey as it has been conducted will not support and allocate necessary resources to our students and families who are more comfortable speaking Spanish. I encourage you to consider the great potential for improved academic success if a fair, just, and accurate representation of students, parents, and community members from Spanish-speaking households are able to share their experiences and to express their needs within a survey such as that administered on behalf of LCAP. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rene Correa.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Rene Correa, and I have a child in McKinley School. My native tongue is Spanish. I arrived in the country about 20 years ago, and I feel cheated that you guys are trying to not give us an option of elect to be taught in Spanish or English only. So I think it has the wrong point of view. You should give us an option to choose per year if we want our kids to be taught in English only or any other language, regardless what it is. It could be French, Italian, In this case, you're saying it's Spanish. It's fine. Any language is good. 2 languages is good. 3 languages is good. But you should give us the options as parents. Perhaps I can kind of remember I filled out that survey that they ask if they want our kids to be taught in Spanish. Perhaps I did say yes, but now the facts come clear now that you want them to be taught in Spanish to the 5th grade. That's just crazy in my mind. So I ask you to stop and reconsider and give us an option to choose what we want our kids to be taught. For the moment, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sheridan Rosenberg.
Hi, thank you. I want to echo what everyone said prior to me speaking. As you all know, I've been really hammering at all of you about the flagrant, blatant, and knowledgeable misuse of LCAP funds from its inception. And I think it's a relief to me to see that people are waking up, that they have rights to these funds, which are for the most vulnerable of the vulnerable in our community. And I would like to bring to your attention that in 2016, Public Advocates, which is a very prestigious law firm in Sacramento and in San Francisco, they filed a uniform complaint against our district in 2016, pointing out 4 pages of how these funds were being misused. That same law firm went after LA Unified. I mean, it was a David and Goliath, but they won that case. And the Department of Education in California ruled in their favor that LA Unified, our superintendent, Hilda Maldonado, has 0 plausible deniability. I mean, she was the executive director for the multilingual education for LA Unified during that time. They were drawing out of LCAP funds. That was a $2 billion fiasco. I encourage anyone who's listening tonight, just Google all these articles, LA Unified, LCAP, fraud, LA Times. It was widely reported in the LA Times. And now it's here, but it comes here in this sort of stealth backdoor. Let's have meetings that aren't real meetings. Let's have stakeholders, but no one really understands what's going on. And in the meantime, they've already earmarked these funds for vanity projects like Meta. Meta's a boondoggle. You know it, we all know it. It is a horrible disservice to those students, the most needy of the needy in our school district or at McKinley. Make McKinley Franklin School, just replicate it. Why don't you work with Casey Kilgore and ask her how she did it and do it again at McKinley? Give those kids a chance to have a successful education. Stop making them lab rats to these vanity project boondoggles that are being funded by LCAP, which should attend to the individual needs of foster youth, homeless youth, English learners, kids in deep poverty, the most vulnerable of the vulnerable. And I'm going to speak out. You know, Stephen Vance's presentation was friendly but vague. I agree with Moni. These should be town hall meetings that are in Spanish and in English, where people can really look at charts and graphs, but also spreadsheets with money. What's the money that we have to work with? Is it $13.5 million a year? How can we these individual students? It should be help.
Thank you, President Ford. That concludes public comment.
Thank you very much. So with that, now I will open up the discussion to any questions or comments about the LCAP update to my board member friends. Questions, comments? Please, Ms. Sims-Moten.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to, I'm sorry, what's the last, Vince?
Yes,
Vince,
ma'am.
okay. Nice to meet you, sorry. You know, we've heard these comments over and over, and so I'm not sure how much clearer we need to be in terms of getting the answers to the folks who are saying this. And I don't know if it's just a, you know, misreading what's being said, or we need to be a little bit more specific about, you know, where the money is, how we're including the public, what parents are participating in that. But these are the same comments that continue to come. And so I'm wondering, is there anything else that we can do to clear it up so we're not hearing that part? Because if we keep hearing it, somebody's not getting it. And so how do we get at that in terms of that, so that we're clear that the money's going directly where it's supposed to go? So I'm not sure who wants to to answer that, but if we could please get these questions answered so we don't hear them every time. Not that I don't want to hear the public comment, but it's the same questions. And so is there another way we need to present it so that it's clear what we're doing, the plan we've got, where we're spending the money? And I know that we're spending in the place we should, but apparently it's not being clear. So where do we go with that?
I'm happy to answer that question, actually. So I think part of this planning process, what's required right now is to gather up information to find out what happened this past year, the year before, and to really determine what our needs are. So we have to determine what's our need, what do we need to address in order to serve our children who are actually designated in the LCAP as the unduplicated students, right? So we gather that information, then we figure out the actions, the goals, figure out the goals, we develop action steps for those goals, and then we apply the funding to that. I mean, what's happened right now is that we haven't gotten to that point yet. We haven't started applying the goals. We've been doing all of the surveys and getting the information first before we start with making decisions about money. So we figure out what we need to do. We figure out what we're trying to achieve, right? And then from that point, we figure out what funding sources that we will put it there, and then present it to people to get input and feedback, and then go back to drafting again. So that's the process.
Okay. So is this what you're explaining, Mr. Vince? Is that what we're getting to the PAC group and the groups and the comments from the parents? That's the same information that's going there. It's in a process timeline. We're going to gather information, gather data, and then we're going to apply.
Right. And so yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So the PAC meeting that's going to be, I forgot the date, in the middle of May. So we have the one that's on Monday. And then from that Monday to the next PAC meeting. The next PAC meeting, we will have a draft of not only the goals, we will have how we're going to measure success, right? The indicators and the measures. And then we're going to have the actions tied to that. These are all recommended things that we've taken from them. We've taken from other stakeholders. And at that time, we'll have the expenditures. So we'll be able to present that to the PAC, and then they can provide their feedback to us on what recommendations they have at that time. They'll see the whole picture. And then from that point, we'll combine all of that, and then we will actually have a draft that we will submit to the board, and then we'll have public comments and so on regarding that.
Thank you. And I would just add to that as well. So thank you for that. But with regard, this is a part of a system, again, strengthening the system so that we have a system that reflects care and concern for all students. And so that takes time to be able to do that. Sometimes you have to adapt and readjust to do that. So thank you very much for that explanation. And I'll say welcome because it's the first time I'm seeing you. So thank you for that. And I look forward to us continuing to go down this road so that we're real clear where we're going with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Alvarez.
Yes, I really want us to make a goal that we answer those questions in line with Ms. Sims-Moten. And I really believe we need to go back and do a one-on-one on school funding, where as a community funded school, the question is the district receiving additional funds because of its population of EMLs, foster youth, and all the other priority populations? That's one question that needs to be answered. And if so, how is the district using? As a community funded school, we are funded very different than LCFF or state funded schools. And I think we need to have a one-on-one meeting with our very interested stakeholders, which by the way, thank you for being interested, and start there. And then provide the information that they are asking. They're asking, how are you spending that money? Give me a summary. And I'm sure we can provide that. And I'm hoping that that will help our stakeholders understand or perhaps generate other questions that we will be happy to answer. So I think we need to really take a step back and go to the basics.
I think the other thing to be aware of, that we're required to show the funding and where it's going to. So I think that's a crucial thing to remember. And so that is one step that we have to, and it's folded within this process, and to get their feedback about it, and then to provide it to the board. So.
Any other comments? With that, we will move on to the next part of our agenda. And thank you, Mr. Vance.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. For agenda item H, I am seeing that there are no consent items that were designated for further discussion. So we'll move on to coming events. And board members, I know you've already reviewed this list, and please let me or Mr. Hio know before our next board meeting of any events that you would like to add to this list of the coming events. And then also just take a look at J. You can see that we have 2 board meetings pretty well planned out already for May. These are scheduled board agenda items. I know that there are others that are planned further out, and so please feel free to share your ideas with us. And also remember that we are in the midst of planning a board retreat soon. Any comments or questions on either I or J? If not, that takes us to letter K, which is our next board meeting is next Tuesday, May 11th. It's a regular board meeting for May. We're going to begin at 6:30. And at this time, the plan is for the meeting to be live streamed and public participation to be by Zoom only. So as we adjourn tonight, I am reminded that by the time we meet again, Mother's Day will have passed. And I feel compelled tonight to call out the hundreds of mothers of students and mothers on our staff and mothers in town who are also healthcare and other essential workers who in the last year have been called on in a myriad of amazing and challenging ways. Barack Obama said it beautifully. Mothers are the rocks of our families and a foundation in our communities. In gratitude for their generous love, patient counsel, and lifelong support, let us pay respect to the women who carry out the hard work of motherhood with skill and grace. And let us remember those mothers who, though no longer with us, inspire us still. Happy Mother's Day. Tonight's meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified School Board is adjourned. Good evening.